Welcome to Lost Relation Chronicles.
It's been difficult for me to come to terms with the situation with Grace. Though we're no longer together as a couple, I can't bring myself to file for divorce, and she, for her part, has no interest in doing so either. Over the past few years, my software development company has grown at an incredible pace, a far cry from the struggles I faced during the first decade of my career. It took years to stay afloat, but when hardware technologies finally caught up with my software, things started to fall into place. 3 major companies are now interested in acquiring my business, and I'm just waiting for the right one to recognize its true worth. Today, my company is valued at well over $10 million, though most of that is tied up in inventory. Looking back, about 8 years ago, Grace was working at a law firm in Reading. Her salary played a crucial role in supporting us during a time when I was struggling to keep my business alive. She worked long hours, including many late nights, which often took her away on business trips. At the time, I was so focused on my software work that I didn't fully notice or acknowledge her absences. Our relationship, though, seemed fine on the surface. Our sex life was good, and we spent a lot of time together, enjoying each other's company, even if I was often distracted by the messiness of my work habits. About a year after Grace started working at the law firm, our relationship began to shift. Our once healthy sex life dwindled, and what remained of our connection became mostly platonic. I felt discontent, but I convinced myself it was just a phase Grace was going through, something temporary. We had 2 sons by then, both in high school. Bradley was preparing for college, eagerly awaiting his acceptance to the University of Pennsylvania, while Scott was getting ready for his service in the Marine Corps. Both of them were relatively independent, managing their own lives without much need for our attention. Grace's boss, Jacob Brown, was a man I had met a few times at company events. He seemed like an ordinary, unremarkable person. But one day, Grace came home visibly shaken and told me that Jacob had been shot and killed by his wife. She didn't give me any further details, but I could tell it had deeply affected her. Shortly after, Grace resigned from her job, and to my surprise, she never returned to work again. Unfortunately, her decision to leave her job didn't improve our marriage. In fact, it seemed to mark the beginning of a significant downturn. Grace became increasingly melancholic, and at times, she'd erupt in fits of rage. There was little to redeem in her behavior during this period, and it left me feeling distant and isolated from her. I tried to avoid being around her as much as possible, but it wasn't easy. The tension in our home grew unbearable. As if things weren't complicated enough, Grace discovered she was pregnant. I had hoped that a new baby might somehow bring our family closer and help heal the rift between us, but it only seemed to add to the strain. When our daughter was born, Grace named her Rose. But even this new addition to our family couldn't restore the connection we once had. The situation felt like a constant weight on my shoulders, and I began to wonder if our marriage could ever recover from all the changes. Grace developed an intense attachment to Rose, constantly worrying about her well-being as she grew older. However, despite her love for our daughter, our relationship continued to spiral downward. Grace began spending more and more time away from home, and with the company thriving, we moved to a new, larger house with servants. Grace took full advantage of our improved financial situation by hiring a nanny for Rose, which seemed to keep her busy and occupied. As for me, I never asked Grace where she went or what she was doing. I simply knew that there was a growing distance between us, and every day seemed to bring more disappointments. Thankfully, my business was doing well, and the money was flowing in faster than Grace could spend it. But even with all the financial success, I still felt deeply unsatisfied, as though something vital was missing from my life. I tried to reach out to Grace, to have a conversation and understand where things had gone wrong between us, but she refused to talk about it. The gap between us only widened as we started sleeping in separate bedrooms. I couldn't figure out what I had done to cause this rift, and without understanding the problem, I felt helpless to fix it. Over time, I grew frustrated, and eventually, I gave up trying to save our marriage. The divorce was devastating, both emotionally and financially. It cost me millions. Money that could have been used to invest in a new venture or expand my company. I couldn't help but feel a deep sense of regret for letting things deteriorate to this point. Despite having a team of lawyers working on my case, I still couldn't find a way to navigate the process without feeling like I was losing everything. The entire experience left me angry at myself for not addressing the issues sooner, for allowing my marriage to unravel while I focused so much on my work. Rose grew up into a fine young lady, and I spent as much time with her as I could. Grace usually kept us at arm's length, but with her being away so often, Rose and I grew close, sharing a bond that Grace didn't know about. It was our secret, and Rose liked it. By 3rd grade, she was doing well. I attended parent-teacher meetings and conferences, while Grace was usually preoccupied with other matters. Bradley and Scott, left to their own devices, were doing fine. Though my marriage had faltered, my children made it worthwhile. Then, one day, luck turned in my favor. Brenda Brown was sitting in my office, waiting for me. I was shocked, thinking she was in prison for killing her husband. She had lost a lot of weight, and her shoulder-length hair cascaded in smooth reddish-brown strands. She wore little makeup, and her skin looked delicate, though not soft. Her natural eyebrows perfectly framed her face, giving her a look that was both tough and feminine at the same time. "Brenda, this is quite a surprise." "You look great," I said. "Thank you, Alex. I wasn't sure you'd remember me." "It's been 8 years, and I thought no one would," she replied. "Would you like some coffee?" I asked. "Black, please," she said. "Brenda, I'm in a very awkward position here," I began. "I know about your situation, and I don't want to say anything that might upset you. If I do or say anything inappropriate, please correct me. I've spent the last 8 years in prison, Alex. I'm pretty calm about it now. Don't worry about my feelings," she said. "By the way, how's Mrs. Parker doing?" "Things could have been better," I responded. "I'm sorry, but that's not why I'm here," Brenda said, cutting me off. "I need to talk to you about Grace. I'm not here for revenge, but there are some things I feel need to be resolved." I set a cup of coffee in front of Brenda, but instead of sitting behind my desk, I took a seat at the table beside her. I wanted to listen to what she had to say and make her feel at ease while doing so. I pressed the intercom button, instructing my secretary not to interrupt us. "Alex, have you been following the case at all?" she asked. "No," I replied. "Grace mentioned what happened, but I wasn't particularly interested. I was busy with business, and she wasn't very talkative at the time. I think she was upset about his death." Brenda looked at me thoughtfully. "I think you have no idea just how much was going on. A lot of this will be shocking for you. You said you didn't want to upset me, but I feel the same way. I'm going to explain some things that might be hard to hear. If it becomes too much, just let me know and I'll stop." She paused, then added, "Maybe we should have some scotch instead of coffee?" We both chuckled lightly, but her tone soon turned serious. "The day I shot Jacob, he was planning to leave me and run away with Grace. He stayed home just long enough to give me the divorce papers. Your wife was waiting in the car. They were going to visit you after they finished with me. I had known about their affair for a while, and I had documents and photographs to prove it. The fact that he wanted a divorce didn't bother me. I was planning to do the same thing." I sat still, processing what she had said. "Brenda, I had no idea. I was living in my own little world at the time. I think, in some way, I'm partly responsible for everything that happened. I regret that my shortcomings as a husband contributed to your problems." She shook her head, her eyes distant as she continued, her voice trembling with the weight of her confession. "That wasn't all, Alex. Jacob always wanted a family, but we couldn't have children. He used to complain about my flaws as a wife, blaming me for everything. One day, he handed me the divorce papers, and with them, he told me Grace was pregnant with his child, that she was going to give him the family he always wanted. I tried to leave, but he wouldn't let me go. He kept insulting me, calling me horrible names. It wasn't enough for him to just end things. He had to make me feel like I wasn't even a decent person. That's when I snapped. I went to the buffet drawer, grabbed the revolver, and the next thing I knew, I'd shot him. I don't even remember how it happened. I sat there, stunned, trying to make sense of her words. The shock of hearing this from her left me speechless for a moment before I finally found my voice. "Wait, are you telling me that my daughter, Rose, is Jacob's?" Brenda looked at me steadily, shaking her head. "No, Rose isn't Jacob's daughter," she replied firmly. "But I would assume Grace believes she is. Can you explain that to me? Because I've checked multiple times, and the brothers never found anything wrong with me." Eventually, I took it a step further and tested a sample of Jacob's sperm, and it turned out to be sterile. I never told him that, by the way. I was still processing the revelation when Brenda continued. "You know, Rose's name, Rose, is actually Jacob's mother's name. I suppose that's what they agreed on when Grace found out she was pregnant. Grace picked it, but I never knew where she got the idea from." The words hung in the air between us, heavy with unspoken truths. It was clear that there was far more to the story than I had ever realized, and I was only just beginning to understand the tangled web of lies and secrets that had been woven around me. "I think you're right," I said, a sense of clarity dawning on me. "It makes sense now. She must believe that Rose is Jacob's child. Knowing that explains so much about her behavior." I paused, glancing at Brenda. "Would you like some more coffee?" "No, I'm fine, she replied, but then her expression turned serious. There's something else I need to discuss with you. I raised an eyebrow. Are you sure you have time for this? I know you're busy. Brenda smiled, her tone light but firm. Of course. Don't worry about it. That's the best part of being the boss. She took a moment to gather her thoughts, inhaling deeply before continuing. When I went to prison, all of our belongings were put into storage. Jacob's briefcase was among the things packed away. I was going through it last week and found something that might interest you. Brenda reached into her bag and pulled out a folder, handing it to me. As I opened it, I saw the original divorce papers that Grace had been meant to give me on the day Jacob was shot. They were signed, dated, and notarized. Everything was in order, the terms outlined clearly. I studied the papers in disbelief. Is this still valid? I asked, feeling a mix of confusion and curiosity. Brenda let out a short laugh. I have no idea. I'm not a lawyer, she said, her tone light. But then she pointed to a specific section. Look at paragraph 7. It grants me full custody of all the children. I stared at it, stunned. Wow, I said slowly, still processing the implications. She'll go ballistic if she finds out about this. I could actually get Rose. The boys are long gone, but if I fought for custody of her little angel, that would really set Grace off. Brenda watched me, her gaze steady but unreadable. Can I take this with me so my lawyers can take a look at it? Of course, she replied, her tone casual. It holds no value to me. Do what you need with it. I wish you the best. She then handed me 2 envelopes made of thick, heavy paper. Here are a few more things that might interest you, or might not. The smaller envelope, which felt heavier than I expected, contained a series of photos. Brenda's expression darkened slightly as she spoke. They're explicit. I don't need them, but they could be useful to you. The larger envelope held the results of the investigation, along with other documents she thought might be important. You can go through them and decide what's relevant. I'm sure you'll find something of value. I nodded, my stomach twisting with a sense of dread. Thank you. I really don't want to look at these, but I'll pass them along to my attorney with the papers. I trust they'll handle it. For a moment, we sat in silence, the weight of everything hanging between us. Brenda, who had become a surprisingly pivotal figure in this whole mess, met my gaze with a calm, collected demeanor. I couldn't help but admire her strength, even in the midst of all this chaos. Finally, Brenda stood up, brushing herself off as though ready to move on. I'd better go and let you get back to work, she said, offering a small, almost polite smile. I nodded, my mind still spinning from the revelations she'd just dropped. Thank you, Brenda. I'll be in touch. With that, she turned and walked out, leaving me with the heavy weight of the divorce papers and the unsettling truth of what was really happening behind the scenes. I had a lot to think about, and even more to do. Thank you for meeting with me, she added. I'll feel better once this is all done. By the way, you don't happen to have any vacancies for ex-convicts, do you? My personal lawyer, Clark Baker, was thrilled when he received the 8-year-old divorce documents. He treated them like a kid with candy, eager to dive into the details. Grace wasn't asking for interest, just the hard figures. She wanted $14,000 from current and savings accounts. 8 years ago, that was about half the total amount. Today, it was almost nothing. All of Grace's other demands were similar, but there was one issue. She wanted the 1995 Volvo station wagon she had at the time. I had sold it about 5 years ago, and now I needed to track it down. Brenda started working in the software testing department at the company. It was an entry-level role, but I felt it would suit her well. Plus, it gave me the chance to see her regularly, which I liked. I hoped to get to know her better. Rose and I kept our DNA tests secret from Grace. It would take a few weeks to get the results, but Clark needed time to check for any loopholes in the divorce papers. I was confident the results would confirm that Rose was my daughter. With some help from friends, I managed to locate the Volvo at State College. A guy from a student fraternity was eager to sell it to me at twice the price he paid for it. A week later, I had the car, and the documents were in Grace's name. Clark explained that as long as nothing had been altered in the original divorce petition, the process could continue. We couldn't find anything significant enough to warrant a change. Grace's signature was notarized and still legally valid, even after 8 years. I signed for myself, and Clark's notary stamped the documents. Now, all we had to do was wait. Time seemed to drag on. My relationship with my wife didn't improve, but my bond with my daughter grew stronger each day. So did my relationship with Brenda. About a month later, I convinced Brenda to have lunch with me during non-working hours. It was a pleasant, no-strings-attached meal, and I reassured her that I wouldn't make it obvious at work that I was interested in her. She replied that her relationship with me was more important than her job. I had a feeling everything would work out, but I wasn't going to rush it. Over the next few weeks, I tried several times to discuss our marriage with Grace, but she refused to engage or even answer my questions. I didn't tell her that the divorce petition was being processed and would soon be finalized. Then, one midweek, Grace stormed into my office. "What the hell is this?" she demanded, throwing some official-looking papers onto my desk. "I'm not sure, but I believe it's the divorce petition you filed, just notarized," I replied calmly. "You son of a... You can't do this," she shouted. "Everything has changed since then, and if you think I'm just going to let this slide, you're insane." "What's changed, dear?" I asked, keeping my voice steady. "Just because your lover died doesn't mean we can't proceed with the divorce. I agreed to all your terms, so you have no grounds to protest. I suggest you hire a lawyer if you want to contest it. In the meantime, I'd like you to take all your belongings from the house. I'll gladly leave your house and throw this divorce notice away," Grace spat. "But you'll pay, and you'll pay big. Rose and I won't be here today, and I'll send someone for my things tomorrow. Sorry, dear, but if you read paragraph 7, you'll see that you granted me full custody of Rose until you sort that out," I said calmly. "She's mine. If you try to take her without my permission, I'll have you arrested, I promise." By this point, Grace was seething with rage. Her words weren't spoken. They were shouted. The muscles in her neck were tensed, the veins on her forehead bulged, and her lips trembled with every word. For the next minute, I didn't hear a single thing she said. I just stood there, stunned by her fury. Finally, she grabbed the papers and stormed out. The silence afterward was almost soothing. I sat there, completely relaxed and relieved. When my secretary brought me a cup of coffee, she didn't say anything. She just smiled. I spent the rest of the day canceling cell phones, credit cards, bank accounts, and insurance policies. I called Brenda, and she agreed to have dinner with Rose and me that evening. I needed a friendly shoulder to lean on. Rose and Brenda spent most of the evening chatting while I enjoyed the calm. But things didn't go as smoothly as I'd hoped. A few days later, Clark called me. Grace had hired a lawyer, and a meeting was scheduled to resolve the divorce issues. A family court judge would be present to act as an arbitrator. Clark told me that Grace's attorney didn't seem overly confident about overturning the divorce decision, but was more focused on getting me to give up custody of Rose as an addendum. I agreed to compromise, but not to concede. The meeting began slowly, with much of the time spent discussing the various demands Grace had made in the divorce petition. Clark handed out checks for the agreed-upon amounts, and we sat quietly while Grace's lawyer protested the fairness of the settlement. Clark didn't react. Grace seemed shocked when I handed over the car keys and documents for the Volvo across the table. Finally, the issue of custody was raised. Grace asked the judge if she could make a statement, which had been approved for the past 8 years. "For the past 8 years, I have forced myself to live in a loveless marriage for the sake of my daughter," she began. "I loved Jacob Brown with all my heart and was proud to give him a child that his wife couldn't bear for him. Jacob Brown is the father of my daughter, not Alex Parker. Mr. Parker has no rights over Rose, and I will not tolerate the daughter of the man I loved being raised by a stranger," Grace declared. "Based on this, I am seeking sole custody of Rose Parker." The judge, who had remained silent throughout the proceedings, finally spoke up. "Mrs. Parker, are you suggesting that Rose Parker is the result of marital infidelity between you and Jacob Brown while you were married to Alex Parker?" "Yes, Your Honor," Grace responded. "The way you phrased it is somewhat demeaning, but Jacob Brown and I were lovers and kindred spirits. We never viewed our relationship as something as dirty as marital infidelity. We were planning to start our own life together when his tragedy occurred. Rose is proof of our love, and I don't want Mr. Parker involved with her in any way." The judge looked at Clark, who had remained quiet. "Your revelation on this matter would typically diminish your chances of obtaining custody due to marital infidelity," the judge said. "However, if what you're saying is true, we may need to reconsider." The judge turned to Clark. "Do you have anything to add?" Clark and I exchanged glances. "Are you sure you want to do this, Alex?" Clark asked. "Yes, let's proceed," I replied. Clark slid a sheet of paper across the table to Grace's attorney. "This is a report compiled approximately 6 weeks before the conception of Rose Parker. As you can see, the report states that Jacob Brown had a 0 sperm count. Mr. Brown was completely sterile and couldn't have fathered a child. That's why Brenda Brown, who is capable of conception, couldn't." Grace paled, her eyes widening in panic. "This is a lie." This report is not authentic. You're making this up to steal Jacob's child from me, she shouted. Her lawyer whispered something in her ear, trying to calm her down. Grace eventually seemed to relax a little. Clark then slid 3 more sheets of paper across the table. The first sheet is the DNA analysis of Rose Parker. The second is the DNA analysis of Alex Parker. The third is a comparison of the two, which clearly shows that Alex Parker is, without a doubt, the father of Rose Parker. Any questions? By now, Grace was no longer angry. She was devastated. Tears flowed as she sobbed uncontrollably. Her lawyer requested a brief recess. After the break, her attorney acknowledged the custody decision but asked for a visitation agreement. I agreed to allow Grace to see Rose every weekend and on 2 holidays of her choosing each year. Grace chose Christmas and her birthday for her visitation days. For the rest of the meeting, Grace sat quietly, while I returned to work without speaking to her, leaving Clark to finalize the documents. I couldn't believe how easily things had turned out. If Grace had been a better wife, even for just a few years, I would have been willing to share my wealth. I never denied her anything, emotionally or materially. I was always ready and willing to do anything for Grace, but somehow, I couldn't meet her expectations as a husband. I never understood what Jacob Brown had that I didn't, or what he did for her that I couldn't. The photos Brenda left behind didn't show him as anything extraordinary in a physical sense. I handed over copies of those photos and the results of Grace's investigation, which included 2 reports of Jacob meeting other women at motels while he was seeing Grace. I hope she enjoyed reading that. All my attempts to get explanations from Grace were rejected, and the divorce left me feeling like a failure. However, I found some solace in Rose and Brenda. Grace moved in with Jacob's mother, and apparently, they had become friends over the years. Unfortunately, it didn't work out for Grace. She didn't rush to sell the jewelry and designer clothes she had accumulated at my expense, and it took her a while to realize that Jacob's mother was doing the same thing. 6 months later, Grace moved out and went to live with her sister in Norristown. At first, Grace took Rose every weekend, but soon she started calling with excuses, saying she couldn't come for various reasons. The calls became more frequent, and the excuses increasingly ridiculous. Eventually, she just stopped coming altogether. Rose didn't mind, as Brenda and I made sure to give her attention. We spent more time together and began to feel like a family. Brenda moved into our home, and we got married just before Christmas. Grace went on a solo holiday cruise in the Caribbean and couldn't pick up Rose as planned, which everyone found a relief. 2 weeks later, I filed a motion to rescind the additional custody agreement, and it was approved. My company was finally bought, and we were financially secure. Brenda was thrilled to be pregnant for the first time in her life. We'll receive Social Security until the child finishes high school, but it's worth it. Life is finally good. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
In the heart of Tuscany, nestled in a quaint village, stood the picturesque home of Luca and Elena, seemingly the perfect couple. Celebrating their 25th anniversary, their bond appeared unbreakable. However, subtle changes in Elena's behavior stirred Luca's suspicions. One evening, he discovered messages revealing her affair with Victor and Isabel, a couple they met at an art exhibition. Shocked and heartbroken, Luca confronted Elena, leading to a heated argument filled with confessions of loneliness and forbidden desires. Seeking solace, Luca retreated to a family cabin in the Swiss Alps, reflecting on their past and his role in their marriage. Therapy and support from friends helped Luca understand the deeper issues and navigate his emotions. Eventually, Luca and Elena reached a crossroads, deciding whether to rebuild or part ways. Luca chose to move on independently, beginning his healing journey. His story highlights the importance of communication, understanding, and resilience in the face of betrayal, offering hope and new beginnings. Hello, my friends. I hope all you are fine. This is Narrative Stories channel. Let's start this story. In the heart of Tuscany, nestled in a quaint village, stood the picturesque home of Luca and Elena. Their residence, adorned with climbing ivy and surrounded by vibrant gardens, mirrored the seemingly perfect life they had built together. As the sun set, casting a golden hue over their 25th anniversary celebration, friends and family gathered to honor their enduring love. Luca, a successful architect, was known for his unwavering dedication to both his family and his work. His designs, much like his life, were meticulously crafted, each detail thoughtfully considered. Elena, on the other hand, was a beloved local artist, admired for her creativity and charm. Her vibrant paintings captured the essence of the Tuscan landscape, much like her spirit captured the hearts of those around her. Together, they were the epitome of a loving couple, their bond seemingly unbreakable. Yet, beneath the surface of this idyllic facade, a storm was brewing, one that would soon shatter the illusion of their perfect life. The discovery of an unthinkable betrayal was on the horizon, threatening to upend everything Luca had ever known and cherished. Luca's suspicion began to stir when subtle changes in Elena's behavior became apparent. Her frequent late nights at the studio, the whispered phone calls, and a growing sense of distance set alarm bells ringing in his mind. Despite his best efforts to quell his doubts, the seed of suspicion had been planted. One fateful evening, as Elena was out, Luca's curiosity got the better of him. He picked up her phone, a device he had never felt the need to scrutinize before, and his world came crashing down. A series of messages revealed an affair, not with one person, but with a couple, Victor and Isabel, whom they had met at an art exhibition. The betrayal hit him like a physical blow, his heart pounding in his chest as he read the intimate exchanges. Disbelief turned into a whirlwind of emotions, anger, heartbreak, and a profound sense of betrayal. The foundation of their 25-year marriage, built on trust and love, seemed to crumble before his eyes, leaving him in a state of shock and despair. Unable to contain his turmoil, Luca confronted Elena that very night. The heated argument that ensued was filled with accusations, tears, and raw confessions. Elena, caught off guard, could not deny the affair. She spoke of loneliness, the thrill of the forbidden, and a desire to feel alive in ways she hadn't in years. Her words cut deep, each revelation a dagger to Luca's heart. As emotions ran high, Luca experienced a roller coaster of feelings: anger at the betrayal, heartbreak over the lost trust, and confusion about their future. The image of their happy marriage lay in tatters, replaced by the stark reality of infidelity. Elena's explanations did little to soothe the pain, but they offered a glimpse into the emotional void she had been trying to fill. Luca's world was turned upside down, and he found himself questioning everything he thought he knew about their relationship. The confrontation marked the beginning of a painful journey, one that would test his resilience and force him to reevaluate his life and identity. In the aftermath of the confrontation, Luca felt an overwhelming need for solitude. He retreated to a family cabin in the Swiss Alps, seeking refuge from the chaos that had engulfed his life. Amidst the serene beauty of the mountains, he began to process his emotions and reflect on his life. Memories of their courtship, marriage, and family life flooded his mind. Recollections of the good times and the gradual distance that had developed between them. Each flashback was a bittersweet reminder of what they had shared and what had been lost. So Luca embarked on a journey of self-discovery. He questioned his role in the marriage, wondering if he had missed signs or contributed to the growing void Elena had felt. This introspection was both painful and enlightening, revealing facets of his personality and their relationship that he had previously overlooked. The solitude allowed him to confront his pain, but also to gain a deeper understanding of himself and the complexities emotions. Realizing that he couldn't navigate this emotional labyrinth alone, Luca decided to seek therapy. Both individually and with Elena, he delved into the deeper issues in their relationship. Counseling session became space for painful truths. Through therapy, Luca began to understand dynamics that had led to the betrayal. He also sought support from close friends like Matteo and Sofia, who offered different perspectives and unwavering support. Conversations with them provided a sense of solace. He was not alone in his journey. Each discussion brought new insights, helping Luca piece together the fragments of his shattered world. The quest for understanding was arduous, but it was also a path to healing. It allowed Luca to confront his emotions head-on and to slowly rebuild his sense of self. The support of and professional guidance, linking his anger, helping him navigate the turbulent waters of betrayal and loss. After months of soul-searching therapy, Luca and Elena reached the crossroads. They had to decide whether to rebuild their marriage or part ways. The decision weighed heavily on Luca's heart as he grappled with the desire for reconciliation and the fear of further betrayal. An unexpected encounter with Victor and Isabel provided a pivotal moment of clarity. Meeting them face to face allowed Luca to gain closure and further insight into the complex affair. He realized that the path forward, whether together or apart, needed to be based on mutual understanding and respect. This encounter, though painful, helped him see the affair not just as a betrayal, but as a symptom of deeper issues that needed addressing. Luca and Elena's conversations became more focused on their individual needs and future aspirations. They acknowledged the love they still had for each other, but also recognized were necessary for a healthier relationship. In the end, Luca made a decision about his future. He chose to move on independently, realizing that the wounds of betrayal were too deep to heal within the marriage. This decision marked the beginning of his healing process, a journey towards peace and direction in his life. With the support of friends and the clarity gained from therapy, Luca started to rebuild his life. He immersed himself in his work, finding solace in his architectural projects. Slowly, the pain of betrayal began to fade, replaced by a sense of resilience and newfound strength. The story concluded with a reflection on the power of forgiveness, not just towards Elena, but also towards himself. Luca's journey is a testament to the human spirit's ability to overcome adversity and find hope in new beginnings. His story served as a reminder that even in the face of unimaginable pain, there is always the possibility of healing and moving forward. Luca's journey from the genre of betrayal to the path of healing offered profound lessons about love, trust. It underscored the importance of communication, the need to address underlying issues in any relationship. His story was a poignant reminder that life's challenges, though painful, can lead to personal beginnings. As Luca found peace and a renewed sense of purpose, he encouraged others to revel in their own relationships and the importance of understanding and forgiveness. The narrative wrapped up with a call to action, urging viewers to cherish their loved ones and to never shy away from seeking help when needed.
Luca's experience, though deeply personal, resonated with universal themes of love and loss, offering a beacon of hope to those facing struggles. His story was a testament to the strength of the human spirit and the endless possibilities that lie ahead, even after the darkest of times. Thank you for being a part of Narrative Stories. Your support and engagement mean the world to us. We are committed to bringing you the best in storytelling. What kinds of stories would you like next? Share your thoughts in the comments below.
Subscribe to Cheating Tales Lab for more original and exclusive stories. We hope you enjoy this one. Let's begin. The sound of my pen scratching against paper filled the otherwise silent room as I made final adjustments to the blueprint spread before me. I'd been at it for hours, perfecting every line, every angle. The clock on my desk showed 2:37 a.m., but time held little meaning when I was absorbed in my work. I am Felix Marlowe, a successful architect in my 40s. At least, that's what people say. Success is relative, I suppose. I built a career on precision and control, traits that have served me well in crafting structures that stand the test of time. If only relationships were as easy to blueprint and construct. A soft creak from the hallway caught my attention. Mila, my 11-year-old daughter, appeared in the doorway, rubbing sleep from her eyes. "Daddy, why are you still up?" I set down my pen and gestured for her to come closer. "Just finishing up some work, sweetheart. What are you doing out of bed?" She climbed onto my lap, her warmth a stark contrast to the cold emptiness I'd been feeling. "I had a bad dream. Can I stay with you for a bit?" I nodded, Mila was the one pure thing in my life, untouched by the growing tension that threatened to tear apart the carefully constructed facade of our family. "Where's Mom?" Mila asked, her voice muffled against my chest. I glanced at the clock again. 2:41 a.m. "She's at a work event. Fashion never sleeps, you know." The lie tasted bitter on my tongue. Lena, my wife of 15 years, was indeed at a work event, but the frequency of these late-night engagements had been increasing, and with them, my suspicions. Lena was a striking woman, a fashion designer whose star was rapidly ascending. At 35, she was in her prime both personally and professionally. I'd watched her career flourish over the past few years, a stark contrast to my own plateau. The resentment I felt was a constant companion, one I tried desperately to ignore. As I held Mila, my mind wandered to earlier that evening. Lena had breezed out the door in a whirlwind of perfume and stilettos, barely sparing me a glance. "Don't wait up, darling," she called over her shoulder. "Big presentation tomorrow. I'll be working late." I'd nodded, forcing a smile. "Good luck," I replied, the words hollow even to my own ears. Now, hours later, I found myself questioning every interaction, every missed dinner, every secretive phone call. The doubts that had been gnawing at the edges of my mind were growing stronger, threatening to consume me. "Daddy," Mila's voice pulled me from my thoughts. "Can we have pancakes for breakfast?" I smiled, grateful for the distraction. "Of course, sweetheart. Now, let's get you back to bed." As I tucked Mila in, I heard the faint sound of a car pulling into the driveway. Lena was home. I kissed Mila's forehead and quietly closed her door before making my way downstairs. Lena stumbled through the front door, her cheeks flushed and her eyes bright. She startled when she saw me standing at the foot of the stairs. "Felix, I thought you'd be asleep by now." I shrugged, keeping my voice neutral. "Had some work to finish up. How was your event?" She waved her hand dismissively, dropping her purse on the entryway table. "Oh, you know how these things are. Lots of schmoozing, lots of champagne." I'm exhausted. I watched as she kicked off her heels, noting the slight sway in her stance. "You should get some rest. Mila wants pancakes for breakfast." Lena's eyes widened slightly. "Oh, I have an early meeting. I won't be able to join you." I nodded, unsurprised. "Of course. Good night, Lena." As I turned to head back upstairs, Lena called out, "Felix, is everything okay?" I paused, my hand on the banister. For a moment, I considered confronting her, demanding answers to the questions that plagued me. Instead, I forced another smile. "Everything's fine. Just tired. Good night." I lay awake in bed, listening to Lena's movements in the bathroom. The sound of running water, the clink of bottles, the rustle of fabric. Each noise felt amplified, a reminder of the growing distance between us. As Lena slipped into bed beside me, I kept my eyes closed, feigning sleep. She didn't reach out to touch me, and I didn't move to embrace her. We lay there, inches apart yet separated by an ocean of unspoken words and mounting suspicions. The weeks following that sleepless night blurred together in a haze of suspicion and barely contained anger. I threw myself into my work, burying my unease under piles of blueprints and client meetings. But even as I drafted perfect structures on paper, I couldn't ignore the cracks forming in the foundation of my own life. It was Mila who unknowingly provided the catalyst that turned my suspicions into a cold, hard reality. We were having dinner, just the two of us. Lena was away on what she claimed was a business trip. Mila was chattering away about her day at school when she dropped the bombshell. "Oh, and Daddy? I saw Mom yesterday at the park. She was with a man I didn't know." I waved, but I don't think she saw me. The fork I was holding clattered to my plate. "What man, sweetheart? What did he look like?" Mila shrugged, oblivious to the turmoil her words had unleashed. "I don't know. Tall, I guess." They were laughing a lot. I forced a smile, not wanting to alarm her. I'm sure it was just a work colleague, honey. Eat your vegetables. But inside, I was seething. Lena was supposed to be 2 states away, closing a deal with a major retailer. The lie was so blatant, so careless, that it made my blood boil. Yet, even as anger coursed through me, a part of me, the architect, the planner, began to formulate a strategy. That night, after Mila was asleep, I made a call to an old friend. Reed Lawson and I had gone to college together. Before our paths diverged, he into cybersecurity, me into architecture. We hadn't spoken in years, but I knew he owed me a favor. Reed, it's Felix. Felix Marlo. Listen, I need your help with something discreet. Reed's voice was cautious but curious. Felix, it's been a while. What's going on? I took a deep breath, steeling myself. I need you to monitor some communications for me. My wife's, to be specific. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. Felix, that's a pretty serious request. Reed, please. I wouldn't ask if it wasn't important. Another pause, then a sigh. All right, send me what you've got. But Felix, be prepared. You might not like what you find. I thanked him and hung up, feeling a mix of relief and dread. The wheels were in motion now. There was no turning back. Over the next few weeks, I became a stranger in my own life. I watched Lena with new eyes, noting every secretive glance at her phone, every unexplained absence. She grew more distant, often missing family dinners and coming home late, reeking of expensive cologne that wasn't mine. Reed's reports started trickling in, encrypted messages, carefully worded emails, all pointing to one name, Diego Leclerc, a photographer, apparently. They discussed future plans and next steps. Their conversations maddeningly vague yet unmistakably intimate. I threw myself into my work with renewed vigor, channeling my turmoil into complex designs and ambitious projects. To the outside world, I was the picture of calm efficiency, but inside, I was unraveling. One night, as I sat in my home office poring over Reed's latest report, I caught sight of my reflection in the window. The man staring back at me was a stranger, eyes sunken, jaw clenched, a permanent furrow etched between his brows. For a moment, I hardly recognized myself. Is this what I've become? I wondered. A man reduced to spying on his own wife? But then I remembered Mila's innocent words, Lena's careless lies. No, this wasn't about me anymore. This was about protecting what was mine, my daughter, my assets, my life. With newfound determination, I began to plan my next move. Lena had made her choice. Now it was time for me to make mine. The revelation hit me like a physical blow. I stared at the email from Reed, my hand shaking slightly as I scrolled through the details of his latest findings. Diego Leclerc wasn't just Lena's lover. He was a con artist, a charming parasite who had latched onto my wife for her connections and her money. And Lena, my beautiful, ambitious Lena, had fallen for it hook, line, and sinker. According to Reed's investigation, Diego was already seeing another woman behind Lena's back, a wealthy art dealer named Vivian Calloway. The realization that Lena was as much a pawn in Diego's game as I had been in hers brought a bitter taste to my mouth. But the real kicker came when I dug deeper into our finances. Lena had invested a significant portion of our savings into a shady art gallery deal with Diego, putting our financial future and Mila's at risk. The anger that had been simmering for weeks now reached a boiling point. I picked up my phone, my finger hovering over Lena's number. How easy it would be to confront her now, to unleash all the hurt and betrayal I'd been holding back. But the architect in me, the planner, knew better. This required a more calculated approach. Instead, I called Nora Kinney, the top divorce lawyer in the city. Her voice was crisp and professional when she answered. Felix Marlo, I've been expecting your call. I blinked, taken aback. You have, she chuckled, a sound devoid of any real humor. Let's just say I have a knack for spotting troubled marriages. What can I do for you? Mr. Marlowe. I took a deep breath. I need to initiate divorce proceedings. Quietly. I see, Nora replied. And I assume you want to protect your assets? Absolutely. My wife has been less than faithful with our finances. Understood. My advice? Gather as much evidence as you can. Financial mismanagement, infidelity, anything that paints her in a bad light. And Felix? Play the long game. Bide your time until the moment of maximum impact. I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. I understand. Thank you, Nora. As I hung up, a strange sense of calm washed over me. The die was cast. There was no going back now. That evening, as Lena breathed in late once again, I watched her with new eyes. She was still beautiful, still the woman I had fallen in love with all those years ago. But now I saw the cracks in her facade, the slight nervousness in her smile, the way her eyes darted around the room, never quite meeting mine. "How was your day, darling?" she asked, her voice overly bright. I shrugged, keeping my face carefully neutral. "Same as always." "Yours?" "Oh, busy." She waved her hand dismissively. "I'm going to take a shower before dinner." The next morning, I woke before dawn and headed to the gym. It was time for a change. Time to shed the complacent, trusting man I had been. As I pushed my body to its limits, I felt a new strength building, not just physically, but mentally. It was there, between sets of punishing squats, that I met Amara Voss. She was a force of nature, all lean muscle and steely determination. As she corrected my form, her dark eyes seemed to see right through me. "You're carrying a lot of anger," she observed bluntly. "Want to talk about it?" I hesitated, surprised by her directness. It's complicated." Amara nodded, understanding in her gaze. "It usually is. But remember this, pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. You choose how to respond to what life throws at you." Her words struck a chord, resonating with something deep inside me. As I left the gym that day, I felt a shift, subtle but significant. I was no longer just Felix Marlowe, the betrayed husband. I was becoming someone new, someone stronger. That night, as I lay in bed next to Lena, our bodies close but our hearts miles apart, I made a silent vow. I would not be broken by this betrayal. I would use it, harness it, to rebuild myself into someone better, stronger, more resilient. Let Lena have her affair, her risky investments, her web of lies. I would bide my time, gathering evidence, building my case. And when the moment was right, I would strike, swiftly, decisively, leaving no room for doubt or second chances. As I drifted off to sleep, Amara's words echoed in my mind. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. I chose not to suffer. Instead, I would rise from the ashes of this betrayal, phoenix-like, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The morning sun filtered through the blinds, casting long shadows across our bedroom. I lay there, perfectly still, listening to Lena's soft breathing beside me. Once, that sound had been a comfort. Now, it set my teeth on edge. I felt the mattress shift as Lena stirred. "Felix!" Her voice was groggy, laced with an uncertainty that was becoming all too familiar. "Are you awake?" I considered feigning sleep, but decided against it. "Yes," I replied, my voice carefully neutral. She rolled towards me, her hand reaching out to touch my arm. I fought the urge to flinch away. "I've been thinking," she said, her fingers tracing patterns on my skin. "We should take a trip. Just the three of us, you, me, and Mila, like we used to." I turned to look at her, taking in the hopeful expression on her face. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. "A trip?" I echoed, keeping my tone even. "Yes." Lena sat up, her enthusiasm growing. "We could go to that beach house we used to rent. Remember how much Mila loved building sandcastles?" I sat up too, maintaining a careful distance between us. "I don't know, Lena. Work is pretty busy right now. Her face fell, but she rallied quickly. Come on, Felix. It'll be good for us. For our family. I watched as she leaned in, her intentions clear. Once, I would have met her halfway, eager for her touch. Now, I felt nothing but a cold detachment as she pressed her lips to mine. The kiss was brief, perfunctory. When Lena pulled back, the confusion in her eyes was evident. Felix, is everything okay? I managed a small smile that didn't reach my eyes. Everything's fine, just tired. I swung my legs over the side of the bed, effectively ending the conversation. I'll think about the trip, okay? As I headed to the shower, I could feel Lena's gaze boring into my back. Good, I thought. Let her wonder. Let her worry. The next few weeks passed in a blur of quiet tension. True to my word, I agreed to the family trip, but I remained distant and detached throughout. Lena's attempts to rekindle our connection grew increasingly desperate. Each one met with my calm indifference. One evening, as we sat on the beach watching Mila splash in the waves, Lena turned to me, her eyes shining with unshed tears. Felix, please. Talk to me. What's happening to us? I looked at her, really looked at her, for the first time in months. She was still beautiful, still the woman I had fallen in love with all those years ago. But now, I saw the cracks in her facade, the worry lines around her eyes, the slight tremor in her hands. Nothing's happening, Lena. I replied, my voice soft but firm. This is just who we are now. As we packed to return home, I overheard Lena on the phone, her voice low and urgent. Diego, please. I need to see you. Things with Felix, they're not good. I don't know what to do. I smiled to myself. Let her run to Diego. Let her cling to the fantasy while she still could. The truth would hit her soon enough. The weeks following our return from the beach trip were a study in controlled chaos. I watched from a distance as Lena's carefully constructed world began to crumble piece by piece. It started with whispers at her fashion shows, subtle glances and hushed conversations that would stop abruptly when Lena approached. I had been busy, you see, planting seeds of doubt, spreading rumors through carefully chosen channels. Nothing too overt, nothing that could be traced back to me, just enough to make people question, to make them wonder about the woman they thought they knew. Lena noticed, of course. How could she not? The invitations to exclusive events began to dry up. Her phone, once constantly buzzing with calls and messages, grew eerily quiet. I watched as she checked it obsessively, her brow furrowed in confusion and growing panic. Felix, she said one evening, her voice trembling slightly, have you heard anything strange? About me? I looked up from my blueprints, the picture of innocence. Strange? What do you mean? She wrung her hands, a nervous habit I hadn't seen in years. I don't know. People are acting different, distant. I can't explain it. I set down my pen, giving her my full attention. I'm sure it's nothing, Lena. You know how fickle the fashion world can be. She nodded, not looking convinced. Maybe you're right. It's probably nothing. But it wasn't nothing, and we both knew it. The isolation grew day by day. I watched as Lena's friends began to pull away, making excuses to avoid her calls, canceling plans at the last minute. Her professional contacts became harder to reach. Her projects put on hold for reasons that were never quite explained. Through it all, I maintained my calm facade, the supportive husband, concerned but not overly so. Inside, though, I was satisfied. The architect in me appreciated the slow, methodical dismantling of Lena's life. It was like watching a building collapse in slow motion, each support beam giving way one by one. The final blow came on a Tuesday afternoon. I was in my home office when I heard the front door slam, followed by the sound of Lena's heels clicking rapidly across the hardwood floor. She burst into the room, her face pale, her eyes wild. Felix, she gasped, I need to talk to you. It's important. I leaned back in my chair, gesturing for her to continue. What's wrong, Lena? She collapsed into the chair across from me, her usual grace abandoned. It's Diego, the art gallery project. It's gone wrong. All the money, our money, it's gone. I raised an eyebrow, the picture of surprise. Gone? What do you mean, gone? Lena's words tumbled out in a rush, a confession long overdue. She told me about the affair, about Diego's promises of love and fortune. She told me about the investment, the risk she had taken with our savings. And finally, she told me about Diego's betrayal, how he had disappeared, taking the money and leaving her to face the consequences. As she spoke, I felt a strange sense of detachment. It was as if I was watching a play, observing the drama unfold from a safe distance. When she finished, her face streaked with tears. I simply nodded. I see, I said, my voice calm and measured. And what do you want me to do about it, Lena? She looked at me, shock replacing the desperation in her eyes. Do? Felix, we've lost everything. Don't you understand? I stood up slowly, walking around the desk to stand in front of her. No, Lena, you've lost everything. Your lover, your money, your reputation. You broke it. Now you'll live in the ruins. The color drained from her face as the full impact of my words hit her. Felix, what are you saying? Without a word, I reached into my desk drawer and pulled out a thick envelope. I handed it to her, watching as she opened it with trembling hands. Her eyes widened as she scanned the contents. Divorce papers, meticulously prepared and ready to be filed. How? How long have you known? She whispered. Long enough, I replied, my voice devoid of emotion. Long enough to protect myself and Mila. You'll find the terms are quite clear. You get nothing, Lena, and I'm filing for full custody of our daughter. Lena's face contorted with rage and despair. You can't do this. I'll fight you, Felix. I'll tell everyone what you've done. I smiled a cold, humorless expression. Go ahead. Tell them. Tell them how you betrayed your husband, how you gambled away our savings on your lover's schemes. I'm sure they'll be very sympathetic. As the fight drained out of her, replaced by a bone-deep weariness, I felt a twinge of something. Regret? Pity? I pushed it aside. There was no room for weakness now. You have until the end of the week to move out, I said, turning back to my desk. I suggest you start packing. As Lena stumbled out of the room, her sobs echoing through the house, I sat back down at my desk. I had work to do, after all, a life to rebuild, a daughter to protect. The weeks following Lena's departure from our home were surprisingly quiet. I had expected a fight, a messy, drawn-out battle over assets and custody. Instead, Lena seemed to have retreated entirely, licking her wounds in private. I should have known it wouldn't last. It was a crisp autumn morning when I received a call from Reed. His voice was tense, urgent. Felix, we've got a problem. Diego's back in town. I felt my stomach drop, even as my mind raced to analyze this new development. What do you mean he's back? I thought he'd disappeared with the money. Reed's sigh crackled over the line. Apparently, things didn't go as planned with that art dealer, Vivian. He's broke, desperate, and he's reached out to Lena. I closed my eyes, pinching the bridge of my nose. Of course, Diego would come crawling back now, looking for one last score. And Lena, broken and desperate for validation, would welcome him with open arms. What are they planning? I asked, though I already had a sinking feeling I knew the answer. From what we can gather, Diego's pitched her some new scheme, another art venture, supposedly foolproof this time. He's convinced her to invest what little she has left. I let out a humorless laugh. And let me guess, he needs more. He needs her to get money from me. Got it in one, Reed confirmed. Felix, what do you want to do? I leaned back in my chair, considering my options. I could let this play out, watch as Lena dug herself even deeper. But something in me rebelled at the thought. This had gone on long enough. Get me everything you can on Diego's illegal activities, I said, my voice hard. Every shady deal, every fraudulent transaction. I want it all. You got it, Reed replied. What are you planning? I smiled. I'm going to end this, once and for all. The next few days were a flurry of activity. Reed worked tirelessly, compiling a damning dossier on Diego's criminal enterprises. I, in turn, carefully arranged for this information to find its way into the hands of the proper authorities. It was almost anticlimactic when it happened, a brief news item, tucked away in the local paper. Local artist arrested on fraud charges. Diego's smug face stared out from the grainy photograph, his charm unable to save him now. The persistent ringing of my phone pulled me from a fitful sleep. I glanced at the clock, 3:17 a.m. Only one person would dare call at this ungodly hour. With a sigh, I reached for the phone, already knowing what I'd hear on the other end. Felix! Lena's voice was small, broken, a far cry from the confident, vibrant woman I'd once known. Felix, please. I need your help. I sat up in bed. What is it this time, Lena? She broke down then, her sobs echoing through the line. Between gasps, she painted a picture of her dire situation. Facing criminal charges, completely isolated, her world crumbling around her. I'll repay you, Felix. I swear I will, she pleaded. I'm still Mila's mother. Please, for her sake. I closed my eyes, letting her words wash over me. Once, not too long ago, those tears would have moved me. I would have rushed to her side, eager to play the hero. But now I felt nothing but a cold, hard resolve. Lena, I interrupted her tearful monologue. Stop. Just stop. She fell silent, likely shocked by the steel in my voice. I'm not going to help you, I continued, each word carefully measured. Not this time. Not ever again. But Felix, no, Lena, you made your choices. You chose Diego over me, over our family. You chose to gamble with our savings, to lie, to cheat. And now you're facing the consequences of those choices. I could almost see her flinch at my words, harsh but true. What about Mila, she whispered, playing her last card. She needs her mother. For a moment, I felt a flicker of doubt, but then I remembered the pain in Mila's eyes when Lena had walked out, the confusion as she tried to understand why Mommy wasn't coming home. Mila will always know you're her mother, Lena, but right now, what she needs is stability, safety, and that's what I'm going to give her. Felix, please. Her voice was barely audible now. I have nothing left. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what I had to say next. I know, Lena, and I'm sorry for that. I truly am. But this is where our paths diverge. I can't save you anymore. I won't. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. When Lena spoke again, her voice was hollow, defeated. I understand. Goodbye, Felix. The line went dead, and I sat there in the dark, the phone still pressed to my ear. It was over. Really, truly over. As I set the phone down, I noticed a figure in the doorway. Mila stood there, her stuffed rabbit clutched tightly to her chest. Daddy, she said, her voice small and uncertain. Was that Mommy? I held out my arms, and she rushed into them, burying her face in my chest. Yes, sweetheart, it was. Is she coming home? I stroked her hair, my heart aching for the innocence in her voice. No, honey, Mommy's not coming home. But I want you to remember something, okay? Your mom loves you very much. Sometimes grown-ups make mistakes, big mistakes. But that doesn't change how much they love their children. Mila nodded against my chest, and I felt her tears soaking through my shirt. I held her tighter, vowing silently to protect her from the storm that was yet to come. As Mila's breathing evened out, signaling she had fallen asleep, I gazed out the window at the city lights. Somewhere out there, Lena was facing the ruins of her life. And Diego? Well, his fate was about to be sealed. The trial had been swift, the evidence overwhelming. I sat in the back of the courtroom, watching as Diego's charm and arrogance crumbled in the face of cold, hard facts. The prosecution painted a damning picture: fraud, embezzlement, a web of lies that had ensnared not just Lena but countless others. I expected to feel satisfaction as the verdict was read, guilty on all counts. Instead, I felt empty, as if the final piece of a long, complicated puzzle had finally fallen into place. What I didn't expect was Diego's last act of betrayal. As he was led away in handcuffs, he turned to the judge, his face a mask of desperation. "Wait," he called out. "I have information about Lena Marlowe. She was involved in all of this. She knew everything." The courtroom erupted into chaos. I sat there, stunned, as Diego spilled every detail of Lena's involvement. By the time he was done, Lena's fate was sealed. She would face her own trial, her own reckoning. As I left the courthouse, I caught a glimpse of Lena being led away by police officers. Our eyes met for a brief moment. In hers, I saw a mixture of fear, regret, and something else: acceptance. She gave me a small nod, as if to say, "It's over. You win." I didn't feel like a winner, but as I walked out into the sunlight, I felt something I hadn't in a long time. Hope. Hope for a future unburdened by lies and betrayal. Hope for a new beginning. The alarm clock's insistent beeping pulled me from sleep. 5:30 a.m. Once, I would have groaned, hitting the snooze button and burrowing deeper under the covers. But now, I welcomed the early hour. I slipped out of bed, careful not to wake Mila, who had crawled in sometime during the night. Another nightmare, no doubt. They were becoming less frequent, but still they persisted. The house was quiet as I made my way to the kitchen, the soft padding of my bare feet the only sound. I started the coffee machine and leaned against the counter, watching as the first rays of sunlight began to filter through the windows. So much had changed in the past year. The divorce was finalized. The dust had settled. Lena was gone, serving time for her role in Diego's schemes. I made sure Mila could visit her, kept the lines of communication open. It wasn't easy, but it was necessary, for Mila's sake. The coffee machine beeped, pulling me from my thoughts. As I poured myself a cup, I heard the soft thud of footsteps on the stairs. "Daddy." Mila's voice was still thick with sleep. "You're up early." I smiled, pulling her into a one-armed hug. "Big day today, remember? New project presentation." Her eyes lit up. "Oh yeah. Can I come see your building when it's done?" "Of course, sweetheart. You'll be my VIP guest at the grand opening." As I helped Mila get ready for school, I marveled at her resilience. She had weathered the storm of our family's implosion with a strength that continually amazed me. Sure, there were tough days, moments when the absence of her mother hit her hard. But overall, she was thriving. I dropped Mila off at school and headed to the office, my mind already racing with last-minute details for the presentation. This project was my biggest yet, a sustainable, mixed-use development that would revitalize a neglected part of the city. It was ambitious, risky even, but I was ready for the challenge. As I walked into the conference room, I caught sight of my reflection in the glass. The man staring back at me was a far cry from the broken, betrayed husband of a year ago. My shoulders were straight, my jaw set with determination. I looked confident, strong. The presentation went off without a hitch. As I fielded questions from the investors, I felt a surge of pride. This was what I was meant to do: create, build, leave my mark on the world. As the room emptied, I felt a hand on my shoulder. I turned to see Amara, a smile playing on her lips. "Knocked it out of the park, Felix," she said, her eyes twinkling. "I knew you had it in you." I grinned, feeling a warmth spread through my chest. Amara had been my rock through everything, pushing me when I needed it, offering a shoulder when things got tough. Our relationship had deepened over the past year, evolving into something I couldn't quite define. It wasn't romantic, not exactly, but it was important, vital. Couldn't have done it without you, I replied. Your tough love got me through some dark days. She punched my arm playfully. Don't go soft on me now, Marlo. We've got a city to rebuild, remember? As we walked out of the office together, discussing plans for celebratory drinks later, I felt a sense of contentment wash over me. This was my life now, full of purpose, of meaningful connections, of hope. Later that evening, as I tucked Mila into bed, she looked up at me with those big, serious eyes of hers. Daddy, she said, her voice small, do you think Mommy misses us? I sat on the edge of her bed, choosing my words carefully. I'm sure she does, sweetheart. Very much. Do you miss her? I paused, considering. Did I miss Lena? The woman she used to be, perhaps. The family we once were. But the pain, the betrayal? No, I didn't miss that at all. I missed the good times we had. I said finally. But you know what? We're making new good times now. You and me. And that's pretty special, don't you think? Mila nodded, a small smile playing on her lips. Yeah, it is. As I kissed her goodnight and turned out the light, I thought about Lena. Last I'd heard, she was keeping her head down in prison, attending therapy sessions, trying to piece together some semblance of a future. It was a quiet end to a once vibrant life. I made my way to the balcony of our new home, a glass of whiskey in hand. The city sprawled out before me, a twinkling tapestry of lights and shadows. Somewhere out there, my next project was waiting to take shape. Somewhere out there, countless stories like mine were unfolding, lives falling apart, others being rebuilt. I thought about the journey that had brought me here, the betrayal, the pain, the long nights of doubt and anger, but also the growth, the self-discovery, the unexpected friendships. As I stood there, the cool night air on my face, I realized something. The wounds Lena had inflicted would never fully heal. They would always be a part of me, a reminder of what I had lost and what I had gained. But I was no longer defined by those wounds. I had taken the broken pieces of my life and built something new, something stronger, a career that fulfilled me, a home filled with love and laughter, a future bright with possibility. I raised my glass to the city, to the future, to the man I had become. Some lives fall apart. I murmur to the night. Others are rebuilt stronger. I chose the latter. And as I turned to go back inside, to the warmth of the home I had created, I felt a sense of peace settle over me. The story of Felix and Lena Marlowe was over. But my story was just beginning. This is where our story comes to an end. Share your thoughts in the comment section. Thanks for your time. If you enjoy this story, please subscribe to this channel. Click on the video you see on the screen, and I will see you there.
Looking back, I often wonder how my life took such unexpected turns. My early years were simple, growing up in a modest home where loyalty, love, and trust were core values. My parents, though not perfect, exemplified a devoted couple, and I always assumed I'd follow in their footsteps. I admired their unwavering commitment and never imagined my life would take such a different direction. As I grew older, I held on to those lessons, believing that if I did everything right, I'd find the same stability and happiness. I worked hard, pursued my passions, and met someone who seemed to share my ideals. But life proved more complicated. The values I cherished were tested in ways I never expected, and the perfect life I envisioned began to crumble. On a crisp November morning, I found myself in the driveway, washing my 2008 Mustang, a symbol of the freedom and control I craved in my chaotic life. While others found peace in hobbies like golf, I preferred the calming ritual of caring for my car. As I cleaned, I couldn't shake the feeling that time was slipping away, hinting at the profound changes about to unfold. Hoping the warm autumn days would last a bit longer, I was just finishing the car's interior when an unexpected visitor shattered my peace. A car, driven erratically, screeched to a stop in front of my house. I recognized the driver, or thought I did. It was Judy, my mother-in-law. She stumbled out, tears streaming down her face, and I knew something was terribly wrong. She left the car at an awkward angle in the street and ran down the driveway, tears in her eyes. She rushed toward me, buried her head in my chest, and started crying uncontrollably. "Come on, Judy," I said gently. "Let's go inside and you can tell us what's going on." I led her into the kitchen and sat her down. "He's such an idiot," she cried. "Would you like something to drink, Judy?" I asked. "Do you have tea?" she asked through her tears. I nodded, brought her a cup, and made some tea. "Give me your car key so I can move it off the street," I said. She handed me the keys, and I moved her car into the driveway. Then I called my wife Penny to come down. When I returned, I brought Judy the tea, along with sugar, milk, and a slice of chocolate cake she had brought over the day before. "Thanks, Donnie," Judy sobbed. "Penny, you're lucky to have him. You'll probably never have to worry about your husband cheating on you." I was stunned. I couldn't believe Ed, Penny's dad, would cheat on Judy. As I started to leave, Judy grabbed my hand. "Donnie, you're family too. I want to talk to you," she said. "Okay, Judy, what's going on?" I asked. "Why do men cheat?" she asked. I felt uncomfortable. "Mom, some say men are wired to spread their genes. Maybe Dad has a strong urge, but that doesn't make it right," Penny said. "I'm not talking about all men," Judy replied. "I'm talking about your father, who promised to be faithful and keeps breaking that promise." "Mom, you know Dad loves you," Penny interrupted. "But sometimes he struggles with his nature. All you can do is try to work through it." "When he married me, he vowed to put our marriage above everything else," Judy said. The doorbell rang, ending the conversation for now. "I'll get it," I said, glad for the distraction. I opened the door to find Ed, who looked defeated. "Hi, Don," he said softly. "Is Judy here?" "They're in the living room," I replied. He walked inside, and I went back to washing my car, trying to clear my mind. As I was focusing on the task, I heard a giggle behind me. 2 arms wrapped around my waist, and a lock of brown hair fell over my shoulder. "Donnie, do you love me?" Penny asked. "Of course I do, Penny," I said. "I'm dealing with a family crisis, and I need your help. Can you grill some steaks and help calm Mom down? They might actually divorce this time," she said. "Has this happened before?" I asked. "Several times," Penny said. "They love each other, but keep going through this. Dad seems serious about getting help now. He knows he can't do it alone." "Maybe your mom should have put her foot down sooner," I suggested. "What do you mean?" Penny asked. "If I were her, I would have left him the first time he cheated," I said. "They need to face the consequences of their choices. He needs to understand that his actions could cost him his wife and family." Penny looked at me, shocked. Then her lips trembled as she tried to hold back tears. I could see she was on the verge of breaking down. I wrapped my arms around her, telling her to calm down. "I'd do anything for you," I said. "Donnie, it's easy for you to say. Your parents were perfect, so you've never had to deal with this. I don't want my parents to split up or be alone. When we have kids, I want them to have grandparents who love them. I want us all to be one big, happy family, without worrying about which parent to invite to events because the other won't come," she said. "Okay, honey," I replied. "I'll help. I'll cook the steaks, and you can send your dad to talk to me while you talk to your mom. Maybe when the food's ready, we can all talk together on the deck." I didn't agree with what I was doing, but I loved Penny and understood her need to keep her family together. We all want our families to stay intact, even when our parents fall short. So I spent the afternoon talking with my father-in-law. We chatted about my Mustang, sports, and grilling steaks. He tried to come across as knowledgeable, but I knew he was full of it, especially when he lied about a car that didn't even exist. Eventually, I asked, "So, what's going on with you and Judy?" He looked like I'd knock him. Then he almost cried, saying, "I didn't mean to hurt her. She wasn't supposed to find out." I thought, how original. If you didn't want to hurt her, why do the one thing that would? I stayed calm, though I was seething inside. I imagined him hurting Penny, and I wanted to kick him off my property. Judy deserved better. She should divorce him. I thought of my dad and Uncle Steve, who were both good men. Any of them would have appreciated a woman like Judy. But instead, here was this idiot trying to save face by saying he needed to reconnect with the church. I had to stifle my laughter at the thought. Later, Judy and Penny joined us on the deck for dinner. Ed tried to play the repentant husband, but it was clear he was just trying to save himself again. After a while, I excused myself, went inside, and laughed so hard I cried. When I returned, Penny gave me a strange look, while Ed acted like he was waiting to be canonized. Judy, however, was in real pain, torn between cutting him out of her life or trying to salvage what was left. She was relying on us to help her make the right choice. "So, Donnie, do you think counseling could help?" Judy asked. I glanced at Ed, who gave me a slight nod, and then at Penny, who also nodded, trying to save her parents' marriage. Finally, I looked into Judy's eyes, which were sincere. I answered, "Counseling can help you work through problems and see things in your relationship that you might otherwise miss." It wasn't a lie. I'd heard it on a therapy show, so there was some truth to it. Judy nodded. "Okay, we'll give it a try." She reached for Ed's hand and smiled. Penny looked at me, and I felt guilty. I was doing this for her, but it didn't sit well with me. I excused myself, saying I needed to show Ed something in the garage. Once there, I grabbed him by the throat and slammed him against the wall. "Prick," I hissed. "This is the last time I lie to save your cheating back. If you cheat again, you'll have more than a divorce to worry about. Got it?" He quickly nodded, and I let him go. We returned to the kitchen, where I smiled and acted like everything was fine, but Ed was visibly shaken. Later that night, we had a good time with Penny, but just over a month later, 3 days after Christmas, we found ourselves in the morgue facing Ed's body. The attendant pulled the sheet back with a flourish, revealing the lifeless form of a man who had once been full of life. Penny collapsed in tears, Judy turned away, and I went into shock, my mind racing with absurd thoughts. The attendant asked if we could identify the body, and both Judy and Penny nodded. "I'm sorry for your loss," he said, his attempt at a comforting smile only coming off as eerie. We led Penny out of the morgue, where a detective was waiting. "So, the deceased was your husband?" he asked Judy. She nodded, squeezing my hand. "When he didn't come home last night, I got worried," she said. "Ed always called if he was going to be late." The detective offered us coffee, which I declined after seeing the state of the coffee maker. Penny asked, "What happened to him?" "I can't reveal details of the investigation," he began, "but it'll be in the papers soon. Your husband, your father, young lady, was found at the Sly Easy Motel on Sycamore Avenue. A hysterical woman was with him. Her husband caught them together, kicked in the door, and, well, he kept the last bullet for himself. You should go back to the morgue and say goodbye," the detective said gently. "Ma'am, I'll ask the coroner to be gentle with his face," the detective offered. "That won't be necessary," Judy replied coldly. "No problem," the detective said. "We have clear evidence. The security tape shows everything, the guy kicking in the door. Your husband was already gone, and there are no signs of anyone else moving around." "Detective," Judy said firmly, "I meant it's not necessary. I don't care where he's buried." Judy stood up, and I followed. Penny looked at her mother and said to the detective, "She's upset." He just nodded. As soon as we left the detective's office, Judy broke down, crying on my shoulder as I drove them home. Throughout the day, people came by to offer condolences. Our neighbor Tanya stopped by with some treats. "How are you holding up?" she asked. I shrugged. "It's okay, honey. We're friends," she said. "I know you spent a lot of time with Ed. I used to see him chatting with you while you polished your Mustang." "Tanya," I whispered, "I couldn't stand that guy. He was a serial cheater, and it was just in his nature. Judy deserves better." She laughed. "But Judy loved him. He was her first everything. That's why she kept forgiving him. Without him, she'd be lost." But Tanya was wrong. Over the weeks, Judy's anger towards Ed only grew. She even refused to attend his funeral at first, but I convinced her to go for Penny's sake. Eventually, Penny got angry with both of us, especially when I refused to speak at the funeral. I couldn't think of a single good thing to say about Ed, and even his best friends struggled with the eulogy. Eddie was Ed. You should have known him. After the funeral, Judy became more involved with us, but certain things like watching TV shows where a husband cheated would set her off. Penny and I often discussed how we could help her. Penny seemed to move on from her father's end of life fairly quickly, and life resumed. About 3 months later, we hosted a gathering, inviting every eligible man we could think of for Judy. At 43, she looked more like Penny's sister than her mother. But Judy didn't know how to flirt or mingle. She'd only ever been with Ed, who had swept her off her feet when she was 18. We knew it would take time for her to adjust, so we planned to keep hosting these gatherings. After the party, as we were cleaning up, I noticed Penny's phone on the counter and saw she had a message. Assuming it was from her mom, I checked it and froze. Penny had been texting another man. As I read through the messages, I realized she was dating someone else. Shocked, I stood there feeling like my world was falling apart. How had I missed this? Penny and I spent so much time together. When did she even find the time? Then it hit me. Penny had always defended her father, even when he was caught cheating. She insisted it was just his nature. Maybe she was more like her father than I realized. After all, you can't fight nature. I guess they expected me to react like Judy. Just accept it, I thought. Judy loved that man despite everything. Maybe that's why she kept forgiving him until the very end. Her anger might not have been because he cheated again, but because his end of life robbed her of the chance to forgive him one more time. Someone's slacking on the cleaning, Penny smiled. But it's okay. I've done enough for both of us. Let's move to the bedroom. Honey, I need to work on the brakes, I said, watching her expression shift to sadness and frustration. How long will it take? She asked. All night if I do them all, I replied. Can we do it tomorrow? Maybe tomorrow should be my turn, she said, hinting at plans of her own. Her suggestion irritated me. Did she really think I'd want to be with her after she'd been with someone else? Honey, I'd love it if you didn't do the brakes tonight and came to bed with me, she insisted. And I'd love it if you let me do the brakes after grilling and entertaining at a party for your mom, I shot back. If you really loved me, you'd do them later, she challenged. If you really loved me, you let me do them now, I retorted. What's wrong with you, Donnie? She asked. You usually want me all day, but today you're distant. Do you know how many women here tell me how lucky I am to have you? Even Tanya said what she'd do to you if I weren't around. Well, tomorrow's another day, I said, leaving her standing there. Okay, she called after me, but I knew what was going on. She was desperate for Zex tonight because she had no plans for us tomorrow. She'd be too tired after being with someone else. Maybe I'm jumping to conclusions, I thought, recalling a TV show where a jealous husband mistakenly thought his wife was cheating. He wrecked a car he thought belonged to her lover, only to find out it was a gift for him. The wife divorced him. The next morning I went to work as usual. Penny made me breakfast and I said, I'm sorry. I love you, Penny. What's gotten into you this morning? She asked, smiling. I just wanted you to know how much I care about you, I said, feeling guilty, as if trying to stop her from doing something we'd both regret. At work, I immersed myself in tasks. By 9:30, I was ahead of schedule and left early. As I was leaving, Penny called. Hi, honey, she said. Want to have lunch together? I'd love to, I replied. Home or a restaurant? I felt relieved, thinking I had been wrong. Then she said, Hold on, I have another call. A few seconds later, she returned. Can we do lunch tomorrow? Mom needs to talk. I'll probably be busy, I said and hung up, my suspicions returning. I called Judy. How's your day going? I asked. Better now that I've heard from my favorite son-in-law, she said. Your only son-in-law, I reminded her. But still my favorite, she laughed. Have you talked to Penny today? She's going to ask you something soon, Judy said. Just don't set me up with one of your friends again, she joked. I'm not ready to date. No, just a dinner for the three of us, I said. Oh, that sounds nice. I'll pretend to be surprised when she calls, Judy replied. Bye, Judy. Have a good day, I said, ending the call. The call delayed me by 10 minutes, and I realized Penny had only called to confirm I was at work. Maybe she'd picked up a few tricks from her father, who got caught a lot. I drove straight to the motel and quickly spotted Penny's Ford Focus in the parking lot. I knew exactly which room to go to. I saw a cleaning lady nearby and paid her $50 to quietly open the door. As soon as I entered, I saw him trying to turn around. I crossed the room, yanked him off the bed, and slammed him onto the hard floor. Donnie, what are you doing? Penny screamed, trying to pull me away. I calmly stood up and removed her hands from me. Don't ever touch me again, I said coldly. I called my secretary, told her I was sick and wouldn't be in for the rest of the day or the next. Then I dialed emergency to report an attack. Penny sat silently on the bed, trying to speak, but I kept telling her to shut up. Donnie, when we get home, she started. We don't have a home, I interrupted. I'm not living with a cheater. Go to your mother's. The police arrived, and I stepped outside to talk to them. I'm the one who called, I said. You don't look hurt, one of the officers remarked. Not me, him, I pointed at Rick, still unconscious. They cuffed me and put me in the cruiser as the ambulance arrived. I barely spoke, too numb to explain. At the station, I was booked on suspicion of attack. They had no solid evidence yet, just suspicions, and I wasn't in the mood to confess. In the holding cell with 8 others, I sat on a bench, lost in thought. There's a big difference between suspecting your spouse is cheating and actually confronting it. People change, and sometimes that leads to a split. But in other cases, the hatred festers, and the divorce becomes a battle. But for me, it wasn't like that. I loved Penny deeply, and until I walked into that motel room, I planned to spend my life with her. Seeing her with Rick, an older fat bald man, shattered me. I couldn't understand it. If she wanted someone like that, why marry me? She was the one who pursued me from the start. As I sat there, trying to make sense of it all, a stout policeman called my name, Don Osmond. I approached the bars as he opened the door, flanked by 2 other officers. "Are you going to shoot me?" I asked. "No, you idiot, you've been bailed out," the cop replied. "By who?" I asked. He just gave me a blank look. "Does it matter?" he asked. "What are the charges? Who bailed me out? How long have I been here?" I pressed. "Buddy, you ask too many questions. Do you want out or not?" He snapped. "Officer," I said, trying to stay calm, "I know you deal with a lot of people, but this is my first time in jail. If you could just answer a couple of questions, it would mean a lot to me." The other officers looked at him and he sighed. "Fine. It's 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and you've been here almost 2 hours. I leaned in and spoke quietly so only they could hear. "I caught my wife with our neighbor at a motel. I know I didn't handle it well, but I don't want to see either of them again. If Penny bailed me out, I'd rather stay here." "Sorry, kid," he said. "It's her. She was crying the whole time, but don't worry. Some fat guy and his lawyer talked to the prosecutor. They're not pressing charges, but I wouldn't trust them. You'll be here a couple of days to cool off. Then you can bail yourself out." I sat back down, noticing the other inmates watching me. They were probably wondering why I wasn't leaving. I knew Penny was trying to bail me out because she felt guilty, but I wanted nothing to do with her. I couldn't help but think about how I'd encouraged Judy to forgive Ed, yet I couldn't do the same for Penny. Just then, the cop returned. "Hey, Osmond, there's someone else here to see you. Not the first one. It's her sister, Judy. She's in the interrogation room. Want to see her?" "Yes," I said. He cuffed me and led me to a partitioned room with bulletproof glass. I sat down and stared at Judy through the glass. "Hey, Donnie," she said. "What's going on? Penny just said you strike up your neighbor and wouldn't let her bail you out." "Judy, she cheated on me," I said. Her face fell. "With him? That's disgusting." "But why? From what she told me, you're always—" Before we could finish, a tall man in a cheap suit knocked on the wall. "Excuse me," he said. "Are you Don Osmond?" I nodded. "Can you join me in the conference room across the hall when you're done here?" he asked. The officers uncuffed me. "He's not a threat. Why the cuffs?" the man asked. "He's here for attack," the cop explained. "Though honestly, I'd have done the same thing." "Donnie, don't do anything stupid," Judy warned. "I know how you feel. I'll call you tomorrow," I said. "If I get out today, I'll send Penny to stay with you." I walked into the conference room where Penny, Rick, and 2 other men were sitting. Penny jumped up, and Rick limped toward me. "Get away from me," I shouted. "If any of these idiots come near me, I'm going back to my cell." The guy at the table introduced himself. "Mr. Osmond, I'm Willis Drummond, the district attorney. Mr. Daniels here represents your neighbor. We have a suggestion that could let everyone walk away now." "What are you talking about, Willis?" I asked. Drummond turned to Daniels. "Why don't you explain, Charlie?" he said as Daniels began talking to me like we were old friends. "Don, this is an unfortunate situation. The emotional toll alone is terrible. There's no reason for you to leave here with a criminal record that could haunt you. These charges, attack and battery, intent to do grievous damage, are serious," Daniels said. "I'm not worried," I replied. "With my education and specialty, my career won't be affected." Daniels swallowed. No need for an innocent person to suffer over a situation that spiraled out of control. "Innocent? Who here is innocent? I'm the one who got hurt," I said. At that moment, Penny started crying. "I thought I had a wife I could love for life. I was wrong. I thought I had a friend next door I could trust. Wrong again." "Donnie, what about Tanya?" Rick asked. "She's done nothing wrong. Why hurt her?" "Tanya deserves to know the truth. She deserves better than a cheater. She'll be fine without you," I said. "Maybe we'll even get through this together." "No," Rick pleaded. "Don't tell her." Daniels jumped in. "Here's the deal. My client won't press charges if you agree to forget this ever happened." "I won't forget," I said. "I'll take it to a jury. When they hear why I strike your client, they'll understand. I'll name him in my divorce and testify against him in Tanya's. The four of them huddled and argued quietly, then turned back to me. What do you want? They asked. Nothing, I replied. I won't tell Tanya or sue you, but you must testify in the divorce and deny the charges and stay 50 feet away from me and my things. Deal, Rick said with a grin. Good. I know I'm about 50 feet from her now, but that starts once I leave the building, right? I added. I don't care what you do. She's not mine anymore, Rick muttered. Can I go now? I asked. No, Penny shouted. We're not doing this. Willis, walk me to the counter so I can get my things. I need my wallet for a cab. As I walked out, all I could hear was Penny crying. When I got home, Tanya was outside and called to me. Where have you been, stranger? She asked. My husband got into a bad situation and got roughed up. Poor guy, I said. It's tough, Tanya. I'm sorry, but I've had a rough day too. We'll talk later. Send your wife over, she said. Tanya, I don't have a wife anymore, I replied, leaving her shocked. Inside, Penny's cell phone rang, but I let it go to voicemail. After the 5th call, it went silent, then rang again, this time from Judy's number. I picked up to tell her to stop calling. Judy, can you... I started. Honey, you have to... I hung up. Half an hour later, the phone rang again. It was Judy. I answered. Donnie, are you there? She asked. Hi, Judy, I said. I had to give Penny some tea with sleeping pills. She's out of control, crying and blaming everyone for ruining her life. I believe it, I said sadly. But there aren't many people to blame. Oh, she blames Rick and says he tricked her into that deal. She also blames you for your behavior. How am I doing? I asked. Donnie, you're not acting like yourself, she said softly. And that's exactly what she expected. Does it ever get better? I asked. No, she whispered. It gets worse. You start doubting yourself, wondering what's wrong with you, why he chose someone else. You compare yourself to others, and every time he's late or not where he's supposed to be, you imagine the worst. It never goes away, and you never fully trust again. Judy, can I tell you something? I asked. Of course we're family, she said. I lied to you, I admitted. When we were trying to get you to take Ed back and go to counseling, I thought you should just overlook his cheating, but you said what Penny wanted. Because you love her, she finished. I know, Donnie. You're a terrible liar. Your mouth says one thing, but your eyes say another. Ed was foolish, I said. No one he cheated with was worth a fraction of you. Maybe it's in their blood, she replied. I can't believe Penny let that gross guy near her, let alone... She cut herself off. Donnie, I'm sorry, but I'm not you. I won't keep taking her back just for her to do it again. Maybe she got it from her father, I said. She always said you can't fight nature. I hope that's not true, she said. You can train wild animals. Maybe people can change too. But it's rare, Judy, and it takes a lot of effort, I replied. Cheaters will cheat. So what does that mean for us? She asked softly. We have 2 choices, I said. We can move on and start fresh, knowing we're just good people who loved the wrong ones. You have a beautiful daughter to show for it. I have nothing, so my life feels wasted. Or we can stay and hope they change, but then we're just fools for putting up with it. You deserve someone worthy of you, and I should find someone who is too. Who are you talking to, Mom? Penny asked. Is it Donnie? Does he want to talk to me yet? Did you tell him how sorry I am? Bye, Judy, I said. Looks like you've got your hands full. In the following days, I talked to Judy a lot. Tanya and some neighbors brought food and chatted with me. I hired a lawyer and prepared a fair divorce agreement. I wanted to split everything equally, even though it wasn't fair to me. I didn't want things to get ugly, but I was ready to go to court if necessary. My lawyer got Rick to spill everything. It had been going on for over 6 months, and Rick believed he wasn't the first. I asked Judy if I could come over to talk. When I arrived, she opened the door, and I hugged her. Penny came up to me. Donnie, I've missed you so much, she said. Penny, I'm here to make this easier, I said. I didn't want a stranger handing you divorce papers, so I brought them myself. No, Donnie, she pleaded. I'll stop. It won't happen again. You have to give me another chance. I'm going to see a counselor. Penny, that won't help, I said. This isn't the first time. My lawyer questioned Rick. We know everything. You've been with him for over 6 months, and I doubt he was the first. How could you look me in the eye? It was just sex, she said. You and I are so much more than that. You and I are nothing now, I replied. All that's left is a gold ring, and that means nothing when the vows are broken. Donnie, please, she begged. No, Penny, I said. I'm not living like this. You're being unfair, she whined. You're tearing my heart out. You love me. Damn it, Penny, shut up, Judy said. Mom, stay out of this, Penny snapped. He's being unreasonable. It doesn't have to be this way. I love him so much, I feel like my heart will burst. Boo, 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 Judy shouted. You're just like your father, Penny. You act like the world revolves around you and what you want. I forgave your father repeatedly, and maybe you think that's how it should be. But Donnie isn't me. You're a grown woman, so act like it. You had the perfect marriage, and you ruined it. Now get over it. Donnie's hurting too. He's been so depressed. I can't believe you did this to someone who loves you so much. But then your father did the same to me. I'm glad he's free now. I only wish I had been. But Mom, I'm depressed too, Penny said. I know I was wrong, and I'm sorry. I'm hurting as well. Penny, it's your own fault. As much as I love you, maybe you deserve it, Judy replied. I agree, Penny said. But I don't think it was bad enough to get divorced over. Shouldn't that be up to the person you hurt? Judy asked. Marriage is about what both people want, Penny. Maybe Donnie doesn't want to be married to you anymore. Stop saying that, Mom, Penny yelled. She turned to me. Donnie, haven't I been a good wife? I've cleaned, cooked, and given you everything you could want. Why can't you focus on what I did right instead of my mistakes? I feel lost without you. I can't stop crying. I feel like my life is over. You can make us both better. Just forgive me this once. I swear it won't happen again. I left the room without responding. At the door, I turned and said, Penny, get a lawyer. I want to get this over with and start fresh. I drove home and saw Tanya again as I walked onto the porch. Hey, Donnie, wait up, she called out. I sighed as she crossed the yard. She was dressed in old denim shorts and a sweat-soaked t-shirt, clearly having forgotten or skipped wearing a bra. I need to tell you a couple of things, she said. Tanya wasn't as slender as Penny or Judy, but now that I was no longer with Penny, I noticed her more. Why are you looking at me like that? She asked. Sorry, I said. I shouldn't have. I just wanted you to know Rick and I are here for you. If you need anything or just want to talk, we're here. Rick's still shaken from being mugged, and talking might help him too. You know, helping others can make you feel stronger, but that's not what I meant, she added with a smile. You know I'm married, and you're not that kind of guy. I smiled weakly, thinking about telling her the truth about Rick, but I realized it would only hurt her. Besides, Rick was probably trying his best to be the husband she deserved after what happened. There was no need to make things worse. Donnie, it's a cruise, she continued. One of our clients is organizing a singles cruise, and there are still cabins available. 10 days of fun in the sun might help heal a broken heart. Who knows? You might even meet someone. I'll think about it, Tanya, I said, but I don't think I should date anyone until my divorce is finalized. You're a good guy, Donnie. Whatever Penny did, I hope she realizes how foolish she is. Let me know about the cruise, okay? I did everything I could to make things right with Penny. My lawyer handled the divorce, and I went on with my life. I asked my boss to transfer me to another location and explained why. A few days later, he arranged for me to move to our Phoenix plant, which had been interviewing engineers. It seemed like the perfect place for a fresh start, warm weather, and the chance to drive my car year-round. I would leave everything and everyone behind, but that's what starting over is all about. I told Judy about my plan to leave the neighborhood, and she was upset, but understood my reasons. She agreed with me, feeling similarly as she processed Ed's end of life and her daughter's betrayal. She had been considering moving to New York to live with her sister and mother, and after our conversation, she started seriously thinking about it again. I made her promise not to tell Penny about my plans. Honey, I don't have to, Judy said. That girl is obsessed with you. She spends most of her time following you around, terrified you'll find someone else. She was furious when she saw you talking to Tanya on the porch, called her every name in the book and cried for hours. She's terrified you'll fall for Tanya and tell her everything, then end up together. It's not that far-fetched, I replied. True, she said. Donnie, you really love my daughter. I could see you trying to figure out how to get her back the other day, but I'm glad you couldn't. She's my baby, and I love her, but I love you too, Donnie. We both know what she's like. At least when this is over, you'll have a friend in Arizona, and I'll have someone in New York. Promise me we'll stay in touch, she said. I don't have a choice, I said. I've only loved 2 people, and one doesn't love me back. You're all I have left. I appreciated Judy telling me about Penny following me. I started keeping an eye on her whenever I went out. One night, I went to a movie and saw her watching me in the parking lot. I decided to have some fun. I pretended to wait for someone, bought a ticket through the app, and then called Judy to let Penny know I had a date. Penny stormed out of her car and headed toward me, but I quickly went inside, got my ticket, and slipped into the theater just as she arrived. She couldn't find me, and with 15 movies playing, she had no idea which one I was watching. 2 hours later, I walked out and pretended to say goodbye to someone. Penny appeared furious. "Cut the crap, Donnie," she snapped. "You went to the movies alone. I've been following you since you left." "Get used to it, Penny," I said. "I won't always be alone. Sooner or later, I'll meet someone I want to be with." "You've already met her, dummy." "She looks just like me," Penny said. "You just need to get over my one little mistake." I laughed and walked away, realizing Judy was right. I trusted Judy not to tell Penny my plans, but I still needed to leave town without Penny knowing where I was going. The solution came from an unexpected source. The next day, I heard a knock at the back door. When I opened it, there stood Rick, looking as nervous as ever, like he didn't belong there. Tanya was watching from their porch, smiling. "I didn't want to come," Rick said, "but she made me." He glanced over my shoulder at Tanya. "Come on in," I said loud enough for her to hear. "I did everything you asked," he said nervously, "and I'm grateful you didn't tell Tanya. But if she hadn't made me come, I would have called you anyway. We have a problem." "We don't have anything in common," I replied. "True," he said, "but we both want to protect Tanya. And we both have issues with your ex. Penny's threatening to tell Tanya everything unless I help her get you back. She says it's not fair for one of us to keep our marriage if we've both been cheating. She's blackmailing me into spying on you and pressuring you to take her back." I just stared at him, realizing I could use this situation to my advantage. "Rick, do it," I said. He looked at me confused. "Does Penny know about the cruise Tanya organized for me?" I asked. "I don't think so," he replied. "That's your info to give her," I said. "Tell her about the cruise. It'll keep her occupied for a while, especially if you suggest there's a chance we might talk on the ship since we'll be stuck together." "All right," he agreed. "I'll do anything to save my marriage." "Good, you can go," I said. The next day, Tanya called me. "Donnie, Penny somehow found out about the cruise. Should I book her on the wrong one or put her in a room close to yours?" she asked. "Tanya, make her pay full price," I said. "You'll be helping me more than you know." "Are you two back together?" she asked. "No chance," I said. "But why? What are you so mad about?" "She cheated on me, Tanya," I said sadly. "I walked in and caught them. There was no mistake. We're done. I just need to get away." In the following days, I prepared for the move, looked at houses, contacted moving companies, and called the new office in Phoenix. I still talked to Judy every day, but the saddest day before I left was when Judy moved to New York. I stopped by to say goodbye, and Penny was there. She had been so busy preparing for the cruise that she hadn't followed me around lately. She smiled as she opened the door. "I miss you so much, honey," she said. I ignored her and went straight to Judy. She hugged me tightly. "I wish you'd hug your wife like that, not my mom," Penny said. "It's probably good mom's moving to New York. I think you're confused about who you care about." Judy and I laughed. Penny was taking Judy to the airport. I said goodbye and promised to call Judy every day. "I wish you'd call me," Penny said. "You know you're wasting your time with this divorce. By the time we get to court, you'll forget why you wanted it. I noticed you withdrew a large amount of money from our account, but I didn't say anything because I did the same. Funny coincidence, huh?" I just walked away. She was so happy, acting like we were going on a second honeymoon, not realizing we'd be on the same cruise but not together. The thought of me being with someone else on the cruise never crossed her mind. 3 days later, I was ready to leave. Tanya had everything set up for the cruise. Just before the ship left, I called Penny. "Penny, I won't be home for about 10 days, I told her. "If you need anything about the divorce, talk to my lawyer." "Thanks for letting me know," she said cheerfully. "Maybe when you get back, you won't want a divorce. Maybe something will remind you how much we need each other." "Not likely," I said, laughing. She laughed too. "Is it so hard to admit you still love me, Donnie?" she asked. "No, it's not," I said. "I still love you. I just want you to love me enough for me to be enough." "I do, you fool," she said sadly. "I've realized life without you isn't worth it. Yes, I made a mistake. But it wasn't about love. Something drew me to Rick, and I don't even know what it was. Maybe we'll figure it out in therapy." "If you like old sayings," I said, "have you heard you can't fight nature?" She looked at me strangely and sighed as I hung up. 6 hours later, the ship was at sea, almost out of cellular range, when my phone rang. I looked at the screen and smiled. Watching the scenery go by, I thought about how Penny might be looking out of her porthole, but I had a window. Where the hell are you? She shouted. I've searched the whole damn ship and you're not on it. Who said I was? I laughed. How can we get back together if we don't spend time together? She yelled. You won't let me come home. You don't touch me and you barely talk to me. I'm going crazy. I love you, Donnie. Okay, Penny, I said. After the cruise, you can come home, but we won't sleep together. I'll do whatever it takes to get back in your bed and heart, she said, her voice shaky. I love you, Donnie. The call went silent and I laughed as I crossed into another state. I decided to call my only friend. Hi, Judy, I said when she answered. Donnie, she squealed. It's been so long since you called. Almost 4 hours, I joked. I think I made a mistake, she said. Do you know what it's like living with 2 stuck-up old women? I started laughing. Judy always lifted my spirits. Stop lying, Judy. Everyone loves being around you, I said. Donnie, do you know what time it is? She asked. They say time heals all wounds, I replied. They're wrong, she said seriously. I forgot how much I didn't get along with my sister. She and Mom are so alike now that I don't fit in. I laughed again. Do you check your rearview mirror to make sure you're not being followed? She asked. It's hard to keep up with a truck when you're on a ship, I said. She laughed. I won't ask how you got on the ship without her. Remember the cow weapon commercial? I had my own ancient Chinese secret, I said. I love that commercial, she said. Guess I should go make Mommy's tapioca. Drive safe, honey. I arrived in Phoenix the next afternoon. The first thing I did was unload my Mustang into the garage. I was relieved it wouldn't face cold winters again, even if I didn't think about the heat and potential sun damage. Over the next few days, I settled in and got everything set up in my new home. The house was beautiful, but it didn't feel like a home, just a place. The day before I was supposed to start my new job, my cell phone rang. Without looking, I picked it up. Where are you? She hissed. Why is all your stuff gone? You said I could come home and now the house is empty. You're home, aren't you? Isn't that what you wanted? I said. You know that's not what I meant, she hissed. I don't want an empty house. This is almost as bad as the divorce you're pushing for. Don't worry about the divorce, I said. Without proof, my lawyer told me I was screwed. I was at your mercy, so the divorce over your affair with Rick is off. Good, she said, relieved. Now where are you? I'll come to you. I filed again, I said. This time, I'm not going to be so nice. She laughed. Does it matter why you filed? Call your lawyer, Penny. He already has the papers. Not only will I get the divorce, but I'll also leave you with almost nothing. And by the way, I'm changing my number tomorrow. An hour later, Penny called back. Okay, Donnie, you win. I signed the papers. How did you get the video? I hired a private investigator to take my place on the cruise. I knew you'd act on your desires if I wasn't around. I set you free. I never even watched the video. Thank you for proving me right about you, Donnie. I can change, she said. I don't think you can, I replied, and honestly, you shouldn't. You're free now to do whatever you want. I'm free too, to find someone who'll love me the way I need. Donnie, you don't understand, she cried. It's me. My father loved my mother more than anything, but he still cheated. It didn't mean anything. It was just Zex. They were in love, and that's why she couldn't let him go. You and I are the same. You'll miss me, and when you do, I'll be here. But I'll make you regret putting me through this. 3 weeks later, I was still calling Judy daily. I noticed a sadness in her voice. Okay, Judy, what's wrong? I asked. I'm fine, she said. Just a little out of sorts. Judy, don't take this out on someone who doesn't know you. Tell me what's really wrong. Donnie, moving here was a mistake, Judy said. I spent most of the money from selling the house on taxes and improvements, and now I'm stuck. I only have Ed's pension, which covers my expenses, but it's not enough to move again or buy another house. I thought moving in with family would be great, but I guess I just didn't want to be alone after 20 years of living with someone. At least you still have family to live with, I said. Oh no, she replied. That's not an option. You have no idea what Penny's been up to since you divorced her. No, I don't, I said. But I wasn't talking about her. Why don't you come live with me? I have plenty of space, and I'd love to have you. Donnie, are you crazy? She asked. I can't live with you. You're my daughter's ex-husband. Not anymore, I said. Come visit, and if you don't like it, you can always go back to New York. Okay, she agreed. How about a week's visit? I want to make sure you're okay. I've been visiting Penny in your old house. Well, do you recognize it? Judy came to stay with me for a week, and she had so much fun that she didn't want to leave. We did everything together, sightseeing, shopping, and turning my house into a home. By the end of the week, I dreaded her leaving. The morning she was supposed to go, she made me breakfast and asked why I looked so down. "Our week's over," I said. "I'm going to miss you. Can you come back soon?" "No," she said. "And honestly, Donnie, I don't think you really want me to. Judy, you're my best friend. Of course I do. Don't you want to come back?" "No," she smiled. "Because if I come back, it means I left. And I don't want to." I smiled and hugged her tightly. We both knew something was happening, but neither of us was ready to admit it. The next morning, she made me breakfast again. "I can't send you to work on an empty stomach," she said. "And I'm taking you to work today. I need the car to go shopping." "Are you sure you don't want to drive the truck?" I asked. She stuck out her lower lip and held out her hand. For some reason, it didn't bother me to let her drive my Mustang, something I never let Penny do. I handed her the keys, and her smile made my day. After breakfast, we drove to my office. I expected her to leave, but she came in with me, looked around, and even met my secretary. Then she led me to my inner office. "So why haven't you slept with her yet?" she teased. "She's not my type," I said. Judy laughed and said she'd pick me up after work. That evening, we grilled steaks and watched the sunset. I noticed she hadn't just gone shopping. She'd also decorated the house with little touches that made it feel more like home. Over the next few weeks, things progressed slowly but steadily. We spent evenings together, taking long drives, photographing landscapes, going to movies, or trying new restaurants. But most of all, we enjoyed quiet nights at home. I often suggested we go out because I was afraid of what might happen if we spent too much time alone together. About 5 months later, on Judy's birthday, I wanted to make it special. I bought her a diamond necklace and made reservations at a fancy restaurant. We had a wonderful dinner, and a violinist serenaded us with "Happy Birthday." When I gave her the necklace, her eyes lit up and she asked me to put it on her. As I did, I noticed her smiling and pointing behind me. I turned and saw the waiter standing there ready to serve us. The waiter said, "I was just saying, sir, that your wife is the most beautiful woman here." "You're right about that," I replied. "Donnie, you should thank him, silly," Judy giggled. "Or at least correct him. He thought we were married." "I couldn't thank you enough," I said. "That would mean I had something to do with you being so beautiful. And I didn't correct him because I don't mind if people think we're married. Ready for dessert?" "Yes," she said. "Can we take it home and eat it there?" Hearing her call it home instead of your house warmed my heart. When we got back, it felt like the perfect end to a wonderful night. It was strange, but at 30, I realized I didn't need anything else to be happy. When we got home, we made love, then showered and collapsed into bed. "I love you, Judy," I said. 5 months, she said. "I can't believe we've been doing this for 5 months." "We wouldn't have lasted this long if we were the type to just jump into bed with someone," I said. "Maybe not," she laughed. "But we're both the type to love deeply and exclusively." The next night, when I got home, dinner was ready, and she had something else planned. "I wanted to make sure last night wasn't a fluke," she laughed. We made it a rule not to mention Ed or Penny. The past was behind us, and we focused on the future. We had so many good times together that there was no room for the past. We did a lot of things together for the first time, but we never talked about marriage. It just never came up, even though everyone assumed we would. That was until the past caught up with us. Our mistake was moving Judy's belongings from New York to Phoenix. Penny went looking for her mom, and her grandmother and aunt, unaware of the situation, gave her our address. That's when the trouble started. One Saturday, I went out to buy supplies for a barbecue. While I was gone, Penny showed up at our porch. Judy had no choice but to let her in, hoping I'd be gone long enough to get rid of her. Penny quickly realized Judy wasn't living alone and that her housemate was likely a man. Judy confirmed it and agreed to meet her for breakfast the next morning. Penny drove off, but got lost and saw my car on her way out. Judy decided to wait until we had relaxed a bit before telling me the bad news. As we were grilling steaks and getting ready to relax, we noticed someone peeking over our 6-foot fence. Penny's eyes went wide and she started screaming. We let her in. "I can't believe you two," she yelled. "Especially you, Mom. What would Daddy think?" "Penny, we're not married anymore," I said. "So what are you doing here?" "I came to find my mother," she said. "I was hoping she knew where you were. I need help." "What kind of help?" I asked. "I've lost almost all the money you left me, and I'm about to lose my house. I was hoping you'd give me another chance. I realize how stupid I was," she said sadly. "I'm sorry, Penny, but there's no chance," I said. "You can't fight nature." "Yes, you can," she insisted. "If you want it badly enough, You can do anything. I swear I've changed. I was talking about Judy's nature and mine, I smiled. It's in our nature to fall in love and stay that way forever. We can't fight it. But since you're our daughter, we'll help with the house. Go home and I'll put some money in your account. But you'll need to get a job. Why can't I stay here with you? She asked. Penny, just being around you reminds me of what you did, and it makes me angry all over again. That's why I left town. Do you want the money or not? Of course, she said. Then she looked directly at Judy. You don't want me here, do you, Mother? You know that if I had a fair chance, you'd lose. Donnie only agrees with you because he thinks he loves you, but really, he still loves me. He stays with you because you're just like me, and he knows you won't cheat on him. Judy and I both laughed. We'd already talked about our pasts enough that Penny's words didn't bother us. I preferred Judy's kindness over Penny's any day, and Judy appreciated that I only had eyes for her. Penny left the next morning, still angry that we hadn't let her stay, but it would have been inconvenient. Judy and I were happy with how things turned out. We both wanted to be alone together, and in some way we felt what happened to Penny was our fault. But we were content with our decision. Later, we learned that Penny had slept with several men in our neighborhood, including some of our friends, which caused a lot of gossip. One morning, Tanya saw a couple of men leaving the house and confronted them. That's how she found out everything. When she told them they should be ashamed of embarrassing their wives with the neighbor's mistress, they told her to mind her own business and suggested she watch her own husband instead. They hinted that's why I divorced Penny and left. Tanya confronted Rick, who broke down and admitted his guilt. 2 days later, as Penny was packing her suitcases, she had a strange feeling. Just as she was about to call one of the guys, she noticed Tanya sitting in the dark. I always thought we were friends, Tanya said, tears in her eyes. We are, a shocked Penny replied. You had it all, Penny. A beautiful home, a good life, and a husband who adored you. Why wasn't that enough? Tanya asked. I never thought he'd find out, Penny said. I love him, but I couldn't control myself. It's just something in me, like my father. I guess you can't fight nature when that kind of desire takes over, Tanya said, and then she shot Penny. Tanya called emergency and waited for the police. It was ruled a crime of passion, and Tanya was sentenced to 8 to 15 years. Rick vowed to wait for her and visit every week. Judy and I got married after Penny's end of life. We realized we were all each other had. There were articles about us, especially because it's still rare for a woman in her 40s to carry twins to full term. We didn't name them Penny and Ed, as we kept our rule of leaving the past behind. Judy and I often visit Penny's grave and talk to her. It's sad and tragic when someone dies, and we don't wish that fate on her. Although neither of us had anything to do with her end of life, we both feel some guilt. Both Ed and Penny were sufferers of their nature. It's poetic in a way that Penny couldn't learn from her father's mistakes and met the same fate. I guess you really can't fight nature. And despite everything, we did live happily ever after.
Perfect, a scene out of a fairy tale. Emily and James's engagement party sparkled with joy, love filling the air. As they shared a kiss under twinkling lights, Emily felt her future was bright, but a nagging thought about James's evasiveness regarding his grandmother lingered. Wedding preparations were in full swing, but James's reluctance to involve his grandmother troubled Emily. Driven by curiosity, she visited the grandmother's rundown home, discovering she was neglected and heartbroken. Confronting James, Emily learned of his cruel indifference. Her world shattered. Emily called off the wedding. In the end, she found solace in caring for the grandmother, forming an unexpected bond. They found happiness together, proving that compassion can lead to new beginnings. What would you do if you discovered a dark secret about someone you loved? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more incredible stories. Hello, my friends. I hope all you are fine. This is Narrative Stories channel. Let's start this story. The night was perfect, a scene straight out of a fairy tale. The elegant ballroom was decorated with twinkling fairy lights, soft music played in the background, and the air was filled with laughter and joy. Emily, in a stunning red dress, floated from guest to guest, her radiant smile lighting up the room. James, looking dashing in his tailored suit, stayed close by her side, his arm around her waist. The love between them was palpable, and everyone could see it. As the evening progressed, the couple shared a kiss under the glow of the chandeliers, a moment captured by their friends and family, who cheered and applauded. To Emily and James, the perfect couple, someone toasted, and the room echoed with clinking glasses and heartfelt congratulations. Emily's heart was full. She believed she had found her soulmate, the man she would spend the rest of her life with. Little did she know, a shocking discovery was just around the corner, one that would turn her world upside down. The couple moved through the room, receiving warm wishes and hugs from loved ones. Emily's best friend, Sarah, pulled her aside, beaming. "I'm so happy for you, Emily. James is a great guy. You're going to have an amazing life together." Emily nodded, her eyes shining. "I know, Sarah. I feel so lucky. Everything is just perfect." But even amidst the celebration, a nagging thought tugged at the back of Emily's mind. She had noticed that James never spoke much about his family, particularly his grandmother, who was supposedly very dear to him. Whenever she brought it up, James would change the subject or give a vague response. At the time, she brushed it off, thinking it was just his way of dealing with family matters. However, something about it didn't sit right with her. The days turned into weeks, and wedding preparations were in full swing. Emily immersed herself in the whirlwind of planning, eager to create the perfect day. She spent hours trying on wedding dresses, each more beautiful than the last, visiting potential venues, and coordinating with florists and caterers. Her friends were by her side, helping her make decisions and sharing in her excitement. Yet, as the plans progressed, Emily couldn't shake off the feeling that something was amiss. James seemed distant whenever she mentioned his grandmother. One evening, as they were looking through the guest list, Emily brought it up again. "James, I noticed your grandmother isn't on the list. I thought she was really important to you." James looked up from the list, a shadow crossing his face. "She is, but she's not well. It would be too much for her to travel and be a part of all this. Let's not worry about it." Emily frowned, but decided not to press the issue. She wanted everything to be perfect and didn't want to cause any unnecessary tension. However, the seed of doubt had been planted. She couldn't understand why James would be so reluctant to involve his grandmother, especially if she meant so much to him. As the wedding date drew nearer, Emily's curiosity grew. She felt a strong urge to meet James's grandmother, to understand why he was so evasive about her. Despite James's reassurances, Emily decided she needed to see for herself. She wanted to know the woman who had supposedly played a significant role in his life. Little did she know, her decision would uncover a heartbreaking truth. One sunny afternoon, Emily found herself driving through the outskirts of town, following the directions to James's grandmother's house. The neighborhood grew less affluent as she drove, the houses smaller and more run down. Her heart pounded with anticipation and a touch of anxiety. She wondered what kind of woman she was about to meet and why James had been so reluctant to involve her in their lives. When she finally arrived, Emily was taken aback by the sight of the small, dilapidated house. The garden was overgrown with weeds, and the paint was peeling off the walls. It was a stark contrast to the image she had of James's family. She parked her car and walked up the narrow path to the front door, feeling a mix of curiosity and trepidation. Emily knocked gently on the door, and after a moment, it creaked open. An elderly woman stood there, her face lined with age and weariness, but her eyes still bright. "Hello, can I help you?" she asked, her voice soft but tinged with surprise. "Hi, I'm Emily, James's fiancée," Emily replied with a warm smile. "I wanted to meet you and maybe talk about the wedding." The grandmother's eyes widened in surprise and then filled with tears. "Oh, my dear, come in, please." She led Emily into a small, cluttered living room, offering her a seat. "I haven't seen James in so long. He told me he was getting married, but I didn't think I'd ever meet you." As they talked, Emily learned that James's grandmother had been living alone, struggling with health and finances. James had stopped visiting her months ago, saying she was a burden. The more Emily listened, the more her heart broke. How could the man she loved, the man who was so kind and caring to her, treat his own grandmother so cruelly? I thought he loved me, the grandmother said, tears streaming down her face. But he told me he couldn't take care of me anymore. I've been managing on my own, but it's been so hard. Emily's mind raced as she tried to process what she was hearing. She felt a surge of anger and sadness. This was not the James she knew, the man she had agreed to marry. How could he be so heartless to his own flesh and blood? That evening, Emily returned home with a heavy heart. She felt betrayed and confused. She loved James, but she couldn't ignore what she had learned. She decided she had to confront him, to hear his side of the story, and understand why he had treated his grandmother so poorly. As they sat in their living room, the tension was palpable. Emily took a deep breath and began. James, I went to visit your grandmother today. James's face hardened immediately. Why did you do that, Emily? I told you she wasn't well. She's more than not well, James, Emily replied, her voice trembling with emotion. She's living in terrible conditions, neglected and heartbroken. How could you do this to her? James's eyes flashed with anger. She never did anything for me growing up. Why should I care about her now? She's just an old woman who expects too much. Emily felt a cold chill run down her spine. This was not the man she thought she knew. James, she's your grandmother. She needs your help. How can you be so heartless? Heartless, James scoffed. I've done enough. She can't expect me to drop everything for her. I have my own life to live. Emily's heart broke as she realized the truth. James was not the compassionate, caring man she thought he was. She had to make a decision, one that would change her life forever. Emily spent the next few days in a daze, her mind a whirlwind of emotions. She loved James, but she couldn't ignore what she had discovered. She couldn't marry a man who could be so cruel to his own family. After much soul-searching, she knew what she had to do. One evening, Emily sat alone in her room, looking at her engagement ring. Tears streamed down her face as she thought about the future she had envisioned, the life she had planned with James. She knew she had to end it. With a heavy heart, she packed her bags, knowing she couldn't stay any longer. Emily called James to meet her. When he arrived, she took a deep breath and began. James, I can't marry you. I can't be with someone who can treat their own grandmother so heartlessly. James's face twisted with anger. You're leaving me over this? You're throwing everything away because of her. Emily nodded, tears in her eyes. Yes, because it's not just about her. It's about who you are. I can't be with someone who lacks compassion and kindness. As Emily walked away, she felt a mix of sadness and relief. She knew she had made the right decision, even though it was one of the hardest things she had ever done. In the weeks that followed, Emily found herself visiting James's grandmother regularly. She helped her clean the house, cooked meals for her, and kept her company. The old woman's eyes began to sparkle with a new light, her spirits lifted by Emily's kindness. One afternoon, as they sat together in the garden, the grandmother turned to Emily and said, "Thank you, my dear. You've given me hope and happiness I thought I had lost forever." Emily smiled, feeling a warmth in her heart she hadn't felt in a long time. "You've given me a new purpose," she replied. "We're family now, and I promise I'll always be here for you." The two women, once strangers, had formed a bond that went beyond blood. Emily had found a new path, one filled with compassion and love. She had lost a fiancé, but gained a family. As the sun set, casting a golden glow over the garden, Emily and the grandmother sat on a bench, content and happy. They had found each other in the most unexpected way, proving that sometimes the hardest decisions lead to the most fulfilling journeys. To Emily and the grandmother, sitting on a bench in a park, smiling and content. Asterisk, asterisk, voiceover, asterisk, asterisk. What would you do if you discovered a dark secret about someone you loved? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more incredible stories. Thank you for being a part of Narrative Stories. Your support and engagement mean the world to us. We are committed to bringing you the best in storytelling. What kinds of stories would you like to see next? Share your thoughts in the comments below.